Very good morning, members. Today we have with us Peeyush Kumar sir, IAS, Chief Commissioner, State Taxes, and we are really blessed to have with you, sir. And thing is, Peeyush Kumar sir, he started his career as a joint collector, assistant collector, sub collector, and also he has done in various positions and detailedly explained by us by Nita Ravikishore sir. Sir Peeyush sir, our branch, Vijayawada branch of SIRC of ICA is consists of more than 1,000 members, sir, and student community of 5,000 plus students, sir. We are conducting various classes to the students also. And from the April 1st onwards up to 14th, we have conducted 14 sessions, 2-hour sessions for the GST, sir, for all trading community, our members, students, and everyone, more than 150,000 views are came, and more than 150,000 persons have viewed our these things, sir. Really excellent. I have forwarded the same to your all GST officers and requested them to send it to their trade community so that the compliance part will be great for them. So now it is a crucial situation. Of course, challenges are not new to you, and you have faced so many challenges. And immediately after coming over Vijayawada, and you have taken up the charge as a Chief Commissioner, this thing, and now that GST implementation has become a Herculean task for the state government and for you also. And now that because of this Corona effect, all the state government need so much revenue, but at the same time the trading community is suffering a lot because of the lack of businesses and all these things. We really don't know how the situation is going to be this thing completed. And now that I'm requesting our Sikasa chairman Nita Ravikishore sir to introduce you to our members and students. Thank you, Ravikishore garu.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Good morning, viewers. It's my privilege to introduce to you Sri Peeyush Kumar, IAS, Chief Commissioner of State Taxes. He is an experienced and innovative administrator with sophisticated policies, acclaimed administrative skills. He has high personal integrity, and he is able to relate and to create trust in all. He is highly articulate, confident, and a persuasive team builder, able to motivate and communicate to achieve exceptional performances. He is dependable and reliable in supporting and enabling team effort to produce genuine long-term sustainable development. His adaptability and strong sense of accountability are his strengths. He has nearly 20 years of proven expertise in government sector, formulated various inbuilt systems for monitoring the implementation of policies and redressing the grievances for a successful administrative mechanism. As a project officer, worked towards building up of self-sustained communities with widening thought and action to move forward. As project director of Outer Ring Road, he has implemented mega urban infrastructure project with an outlay of rupees 6,400 crores. The ambitious project entailed innovative project financing, including JBIC funding. In his stint of 3 years as collector and a district magistrate in 2 important districts of undivided Andhra Pradesh, namely Medak district and Krishna district, coordinated, and he has developed the district in all aspects. He has successfully managed natural calamities like Laila and Jal cyclone. As a director in the Budget Division, Department of Economic Affairs, Ministry of Finance, Government of India, he has handled public finance of Government of India, including financial policy drivers such as market borrowing of the central government and preparation of annual financial statement laid in the Parliament as a part of the Union Budget for 3 years. As a Joint Secretary in Direct Benefit Transfer Mission, under the aegis of Cabinet Secretariat, spearheaded major reform initiative of the central government entailing the use of IT platforms such as financial inclusion, digital identity system under Aadhaar to direct transfer subsidies and welfare programs into the account of rightful beneficiaries directly. He did his Master of Sciences in Statistics from the Indian Institute of Statistics, New Delhi, and he has done his Bachelor's of Science in Statistics from Hindu College, Delhi University, Delhi. He has done his schooling in Delhi Public School, Mathura Road of New Delhi. He worked as a commissioner. He is now currently working as a chief commissioner of state tax, government of Andhra Pradesh. He worked as a secretary finance, government of Andhra Pradesh from May 2018 to June 2019. He worked as a joint secretary, direct benefit transfer, government of India in the cabinet secretariat and Ministry of Finance from April 2015 to April 2018. He was a director in Budget Division, Department of Economic Affairs, Ministry of Finance, Government of India from August 2012 to April 2015. He was a director of a Bilateral Cooperation Division, Department of Economic Affairs, Ministry of Finance, Government of India from April 2011 to July 2012. He was collector and district magistrate of Krishna district, Andhra Pradesh from 2009 to March 2011. He was collector and district manager of Medak district, Andhra Pradesh from 2008 to 2009. He was project director of Outer Ring Road project built by Hyderabad Urban Development Authority in Hyderabad, Undivided Andhra Pradesh from 2005 to 2008. A joint collector of Visakhapatnam district, Andhra Pradesh from 2003 to 2005. He was project officer of Integrated Tribal Development Agency in Bhadrachalam of Khammam district and also Yetur Nagaram of Warangal districts. He was sub-collector of Vijayawada division in Krishna district, Andhra Pradesh from 2000 to 2001. As a part of his probation, he worked as an assistant collector in Srikakulam district of Andhra Pradesh from 1998 to 99. He was a gold medalist in MSc Statistics and a topper in Delhi University in 1994. He is selected for Indian Statistical Service in 1996 and topped in All India level. He was selected for Indian Administrative Services in the year 1997 and secured 9th rank at All India level. He participated in 2-week program on infrastructure in a market economy at Harvard University, Boston, United States during 2005. He was a recipient of Satyen Maitra Memorial National Literary Award from Her Excellency the President of India, Srimati Pratibha D. Patil in 2008 for outstanding contribution to the continuing education while as district collector in Medak. He received Best City Award 2010 from Sri S. Jaipal Reddy, Honorable Minister for Urban Development, Government of India for exceptional role as Special Officer of Vijayawada Municipal Corporation. Received commendation letter from His Excellency Governor of Andhra Pradesh, Sri E.S.L. Natsimhan for effective management of floods in 2009 and Laila cyclone in May 2010. With this introduction, I present before you Sri Peeyush ji. Sir, over to you.
Thank you, Ravi Kishore Garu. That was a rather elaborate introduction. First of all, a very warm welcome to all the participants in the program today. Special thanks to Srinivas Garu, Chairman of the South Chapter of ICI, and Shiv Prasad Garu, the practicing chartered accountant, who is willingly come forward to conduct this special training session today. It is very heartening to note the efforts that is being put by the Andhra, the Vijayawada chapter of ICI in educating or explaining to people about different aspects of the GST requirements. And especially the topic of today's discourse on filing of annual returns is partly very relevant and important, because that is something which has been different notifications have been coming forward, and there have been some confusion regarding the current status and who has to file and what has to be done. It is also very, again, very heartening to note that in the times of COVID, the kind of the health emergency situation that we find ourselves, these are unprecedented times in general for the health emergency situation that we are facing. And never before has our system been put to such kind of a pandemic situation where everything and life virtually has come to a hold.
and partly so for the GST and the commerce that is to happen in these times when almost all entire business cycle is come to a grinding halt, and there are it is not clear that how this situation will play out in coming months. ఏ విధంగా ఇది బయటపడతాము, ఏ విధంగా ఈ దీనికి ఏదైతే రిలాక్సేషన్ ఉన్నాయో అంటే both the production cycle, the the trade cycle, how the distribution network, the supply chain will be there. Presently, depending assessment చేసి ఎప్పుడు the supply chain for the essential commodities are being restored. There are requirements for food and health systems which are immediately being taken over, and depending upon the number of cases, the way they come up and the virus behaves, and depending upon the health situation that arises, particular strategy will have to be adopted, and not only locally or nationally but globally also. దాదాపు అన్ని ప్రపంచంలో ఉన్నటువంటి అన్ని దేశాల్లో కూడా ఇదే పరిస్థితి కొనసాగుతుంది కాబట్టి ఏ విధంగా దీనికి ఇంకా ముందుకు వెళ్తామని కూడా తెలియదు. అయితే ఇలాంటి పరిస్థితిలో మళ్ళీ మనకు ఇన్ జనరల్ కామర్స్ ట్రేడ్ లో ఏ విధంగా మన తీసుకెళ్ళాలి, ముందుగా బయట పడాలి, అదే విధంగా స్టేట్ ఫైనాన్సెస్ లో అండ్ నేషనల్ ఫైనాన్సెస్ లో కూడా ఒక విచిత్రమైన పరిస్థితి వచ్చింది. ఎప్పుడు కూడా ఇంత ముందు ఇలాంటి పరిస్థితి చూడలేదు కాబట్టి ఇలాంటి సమయంలో ఏ విధంగా మనం ఏం చర్యలు తీసుకోవాలా, దట్ పార్ట్ విల్ బి అలాంగ్ విత్ ది సొసైటీ విల్ బి టేకింగ్ ఇట్ అప్. అయితే ఈ టైంలో బికాజ్ చాలా మంది మనం హోమ్ బౌండ్ ఉన్నాము, బయట వెళ్ళలేకపోతున్నాము కాబట్టి ఈ లెర్నింగ్ అనేటువంటి అన్ని రంగాల్లో అంటే కాలేజ్ పిల్లలు స్టూడెంట్స్ కి స్కూల్ నుంచి కూడా ఈ లెర్నింగ్ అవుతున్నాయి. అదేవిధంగా ఈ ముఖ్యంగా మనకు అంటే ఈ టైం ఉంది కాబట్టి రకరకాల లెర్నింగ్ కి కూడా ఈ క్లాసెస్ రూపంలో కూడా టేకప్ చేయడం జరుగుతుంది. అయితే ఈ సమయంలో గత 15 రోజుల నుంచి 1st ఏప్రిల్ నుంచి 15th ఏప్రిల్ వరకు కూడా ఏదైతే మీరు క్లాసెస్ దీని GST ఎడ్యుకేషన్ గురించి పెట్టారు, దానికి ఉన్నటువంటి సబ్స్క్రిప్షన్స్, ది నెంబర్ ఆఫ్ హిట్స్, దట్ ఇట్ సెల్ఫ్ షోస్ దట్ హౌ ఎఫెక్టివ్లీ as a ecosystem you have come forward. ఇక్కడ అంటే జిఎస్టీలో చాలా రకాలుగా కన్ఫ్యూజన్స్ కూడా ఉన్నాయి. మన రాష్ట్రంలో అయితే కొంచెం పర్వాలేదు, అంటే 2017 ఎప్పుడైతే మనం ఈ జిఎస్టీ సిస్టంలో మూవ్ అయ్యాము అప్పటి నుండి కూడా ఈ మనకు ఛాంబర్స్ ఆఫ్ కామర్స్ కానీ ఈ ఏదైతే ప్రాక్టీసింగ్ ట్యాక్స్ ప్రాక్టీషనర్స్ అసోసియేషన్స్ సంస్థ వాళ్ళు ఉన్నారు. అదేవిధంగా మన రంగంలో ఏదైతే కమర్షియల్ ట్యాక్స్ డిపార్ట్మెంట్ లో ఎప్పుడు క్లోజ్ కోఆర్డినేషన్ తో మనం ఐటీ అనేటువంటి సిస్టమ్ అడాప్షన్, అంటే వ్యాట్ లో కూడా కొంతవరకు మనకు అప్పటికే జరిగింది. 2011 నుంచి 15 వరకు కూడా మన కొన్ని రిటర్న్స్ ఫైలింగ్, తర్వాత కొన్ని ఏదైతే యాన్యువల్ స్టేట్మెంట్స్, అదేవిధంగా ఇన్వర్డ్ అవుట్వర్డ్ సప్లై స్టేట్మెంట్స్ కూడా మనం ఆంధ్రప్రదేశ్లోనే మొదటిసారి అప్పుడు మనం డెవలప్ చేశాము. కాబట్టి అన్ని రాష్ట్రాల కంటే కూడా మన ఆంధ్రప్రదేశ్ కూడా కొంచెం ముందుగా ఉండి అప్పటి వరకు ఉన్నటువంటి ఛాలెంజెస్ ని అన్ని టేకప్ చేసి అంటే కొంచెం కంపేర్ టు అదర్ స్టేట్స్ మన we could negotiate better in terms of this change over from the పూర్తిగా ఒక డెస్టినేషన్ బేస్డ్ ట్యాక్స్ సిస్టమ్, ఇంటిగ్రేటెడ్ ట్యాక్స్ సిస్టమ్ లో కింద మనం చేయగలిగాము. అయితే జిఎస్టీలో కూడా బికాస్ ఫ్రమ్ స్టేట్ లెవెల్ ఒక నేషనల్ లెవెల్ ట్యాక్స్ సిస్టమ్, యునైటెడ్ ట్యాక్స్ సిస్టమ్, అందులో కూడా ముఖ్యంగా ఈ పూర్తిగా ఆన్లైన్ కావడం, దీంతో జిఎస్టీలో కూడా ఎప్పటికప్పుడు కొంచెం సరి చేసుకుంటూ రావడం జరిగింది. మామూలుగా ఒక 2 years అంటే ఒక ట్యాక్స్ సిస్టమ్ లో అంత పెద్ద పని అంటే స్కేల్ కాదు కాబట్టి ఎప్పుడు ఏదైతే సిస్టమ్స్ ఉన్నాయో అంటే 1 GSTR 1 కానీ 2 కానీ 3 కానీ ఎప్పటికప్పుడు అందులో కొన్ని ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ ఉంటే సరి చేసుకోవడం, తర్వాత దాన్ని కూడా క్లారిఫికేషన్ ఇచ్చి తీసుకురావడం అన్ని కూడా జరిగినాయి. మామూలుగా అయితే ఒక ట్యాక్స్ సిస్టమ్ లో ఇన్కమ్ ట్యాక్స్ చూస్తే ఈ ఐటీ ఆన్లైన్ సిస్టమ్ దాదాపు ఒక 15 years లో స్పాన్ అవుట్ అయింది. 98, 99, 200 మొదలు పెట్టి 2012 వరకు కూడా ఈ రిటర్న్ ఫైలింగ్ సిస్టమ్స్ అనేటువంటి ఒక స్ట్రీమ్ లైన్ అయింది. కానీ జిఎస్టీలో అన్లైక్ ఇన్కమ్ ట్యాక్స్, ఇట్ ఈస్ అ రెగ్యులర్ ట్యాక్సెస్ అంటే వన్స్ ఇయర్ ఫైలింగ్ కాకుండా మంత్లీ కూడా ట్రాన్సాక్షన్స్ అయితే జరుగుతున్నాయో వాటిని కూడా మనం రిపోర్ట్ చేయాల్సిన అవసరం ఉంది. దానికి రకరకాల ఫార్మాట్స్ డెవలప్ చేసి మన దానికి ఇన్స్ట్రక్షన్స్ కూడా అంటే ఒకటి ఫార్మాట్ లో చేంజెస్ కానీ ఇన్స్ట్రక్షన్స్ లో కానీ ఎప్పటికప్పుడు చేంజ్ చేసేస్తూ తీసుకురావడం జరిగింది. సో a tax system which is being implemented on the move. So as we go along, as business is going around and whatever filings have to be done, along with that, whatever improvements are there, that has been taken up. అయితే ఈ చేంజెస్ లో చాలా వరకు కంపైల్ చేసి దానికి సరి అయిన ఇన్స్ట్రక్షన్ ఇవ్వడం చాలా అవసరం పడుతుంది. అది మన రాష్ట్రంలో అంటే తెలుగు భాషలో కూడా లోకల్ గా తీసుకువచ్చి చాలా మంది వీడియోస్ పెట్టడం, అదేవిధంగా దాన్ని ఫాలో చేస్తూ ఎప్పటికెప్పుడు డిస్ట్రిక్ట్ లెవెల్లో కానీ సర్కిల్ ఆఫీస్ స్థాయి వరకు కూడా ఒక క్లోజ్ కోఆర్డినేషన్ తోటి మనం ఎప్పుడు ముందుగా తీసుకెళ్తున్నాము. కాబట్టి కంపేర్ టు అదర్ స్టేట్స్ మన స్టేట్ లో కొంచెం అంత కొంచెం పర్వాలేదు. సో అయితే ఇన్ దిస్ కాంటెక్స్ట్, ఇన్ దిస్ బ్యాక్డ్రాప్, ఇన్ దిస్ కోవిడ్ లాక్డౌన్ టైంలో చాలా రెలవెంట్ గా ఒక టాపిక్ తీసుకొచ్చి ఈ రోజు ఏదైతే 9 యాన్యువల్ రిటర్న్ ఫైలింగ్ గురించి అంటే ఇంతకుముందు అందరిది ఫైల్ చేయాల్సింది ఉంటే ఎప్పుడు 2 కోటి వరకు ఎగ్జంప్షన్ ఇస్తూ మళ్ళీ 2 కోటి పైన ఉన్నటువంటి టర్న్ ఓవర్కి 9 పెట్టు కంపల్సరీ చేసి అదేవిధంగా 9C అనేటువంటి 5 crore పైన బిజినెస్ కి పెట్టడం జరిగింది. దానికి ముఖ్యంగా ఈ ఎస్పెషలీ స్టార్టింగ్ 2 years లో కొంచెం అప్పుడు ఇబ్బంది ఉండేది కాబట్టి దాన్ని ఒక యాన్యువల్ రిటర్న్ ఫైలింగ్ ని ఒక అవకాశం కింద తీసుకోవాలి. అంటే ఎప్పుడైనా మీరు మంత్లీ కానీ క్వార్టర్లీ ఏదైతే రిటర్న్స్ ఫైల్ చేసి ఉన్నారో అందులో ఏమైనా గ్యాప్స్ ఉన్నట్టయితే అప్పుడు కొన్ని మిస్సింగ్ ఉన్నట్టయితే ఈ యాన్యువల్ రిటర్న్ లో కూడా మీరు సరి చేసుకునే అవకాశం ఉంటుంది. సో దాట్ లేటర్ మీ ఇన్కమ్ ట్యాక్స్ లో కానీ ఇతర ట్యాక్సెస్ లో కూడా రీకన్సిలియేషన్ స్టేట్మెంట్ సరి చేసే కూడా అవకాశం ఉంటుంది. సో దీనికి ఏదైతే గైడ్ లైన్స్ ఉన్నాయో అదేవిధంగా ఏ విధంగా దీన్ని డిఫరెంట్ ఫార్మ్స్ లో కూడా చాలా డీటెయిలింగ్ ఉంటే ఇంతకుముందు 9C లో పెట్టాలంటే కొన్ని టేబుల్స్ చాలా ఇబ్బందిగా ఉండేది. అది కూడా రిలాక్స్ చేస్తూ కొన్ని ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ లేనప్పుడు దాన్ని ఆప్షనల్ కూడా చేసుకుంటూ గైడ్ లైన్స్ అవన్నీ కూడా ఇవ్వడం జరిగింది. కాబట్టి వాటి మీద ప్రత్యేకంగా ఐఎమ్ ష్యూర్ ఈరోజు మీకు చాలా డీటెయిల్ గా ప్రసాద్ గారు అన్ని నాకు తెలిసిన విషయమే. ఇంతకుముందు మా డిపార్ట్మెంట్ తో కూడా ఆయన కన్సల్టెంట్ గా ఉండి ఎక్స్పర్ట్ గా మనకు కూడా కొన్ని మెటీరియల్ తయారు చేయడం అడ్వైజ్ ఇవ్వడం జరిగింది. కాబట్టి ఈజ్ అవేర్ ఆఫ్ ది సిస్టమ్ అండ్ ఈ రోజు నేను వాలంటరీగా ముందుకు వచ్చి ఈ ఫ్రీ ఆఫ్ కాస్ట్ ఏదైతే లెక్చర్స్ పెడుతున్నారు దీని మీద చాలా మంది కూడా వింటున్నారని ఇంతకుముందు చేసి చెప్పారు. ఈ రోజు రెలెవెంట్ సిస్టమ్ ఉంది కాబట్టి తప్పకుండా దీన్ని ఈ అవకాశాన్ని సద్వినియోగం చేసి ఏమైనా దీని డౌట్స్ ఉందా అంటే క్లారిటీ మీకు వస్తుందని కూడా ఆశిస్తూ ఈ రోజు ఈ ప్రోగ్రామ్ కి ముందుగా తీసుకువచ్చే వచ్చేందుకు ఈ ఐసిఐ విజయవాడ బ్రాంచ్ ని అదే చాప్టర్ ని అదే విధంగా ఏదైతే వాలంటరీగా శ్రీ ప్రసాద్ గారు ముందు వచ్చి ఇది చేస్తున్నారో వారికి ప్రత్యేకంగా నేను అభినందన తెలియజేసుకుంటూ ఈ అవకాశాన్ని మీరు అంతా సద్వినియోగం చేస్తున్నారని ఆశిస్తున్నాను. థ్యాంక్ యూ. So before on to Shiv Prasad, to carry on the lecture, I will be also listening to the lecture. I have some immediate things, so I will be leaving for in the meanwhile, but I will go through the lectures also. All the best. Thank you, Shiv Prasad.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Peeyush Kumar Garu, for your nice interaction with us. Members, Peeyush Kumar sir is having some important commitments, and then he will be coming back to us, and he will be listening to our lectures also. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for the being here and doing the great honors. It is a great honor for us also.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thanks for the time.
So, members, now we'll go to proceed to the real technical session. I request Ravi Kishore Garu to introduce our today's resource person, Siva Prasad Annavarapu Garu, to you all, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the opportunity. Dear viewers, let me introduce you today's speaker, CA Siva Prasad Annavarapu. He has been practiced for the past 17 years. He has served as a lead consultant to Andhra Pradesh Commercial Tax, State Tax, Government of Andhra Pradesh from October 18 to October 19. He is presently nominated committee member to the Grievance Redressal Committee for the state of Andhra Pradesh. He acted as committee member on various governmental bodies on study of impact of GST on standard operation rates, etc. He qualified his chartered accountancy course in the year 2003. He secured All India 7th rank in Cost and Management Accountancy Intermediate course and 4th rank in the Cost and Management Accountancy course final. He is selected as a faculty of GST under Faculty Identification Program conducted by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. He is a regular speaker on accounting standards and use of information technology in audit function. He has presented more than 150 papers in seminars on GST at several forums like ICAI, Chamber of Commerce, FATCPCI, CII, and other various trade associations and outreach programs by central and state GST departments. He has conducted departmental training programs to all circles of the Andhra Pradesh State GST Department in the areas of inputs, refunds, appeals, and annual returns. He has acted as an advisor to Indian Tobacco Association, Spinning Mills Association, and also Wholesale Distributors Association, Guntur, and various other trade bodies. I present before you CA Siva Prasad. Sir, please carry on.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So, thanks a lot, sir, for the generous introduction. And I thank Vijayawada branch for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts on this GSTR 9 and 9C annual returns. So, as mentioned in the brochure of the session, our session is divided into two parts. First day, we are going to discuss the statutory backdrop of the returns, annual returns. And also, we will touch upon various tables of the forms in order to set the stage for our tomorrow's session. That is...
Sir, Siva Prasad garu, sorry to interrupt you. Maybe I think we have an issue with your voice. Maybe a slight disturbance is there in your voice.
Okay.
So please check your voice, sir.
Is it okay now, sir?
Some breaking of the voice is occurring, sir. Previously, it was nice, but the breaking of the voice is going on. There is some issue with your mic setting icon.
Is it okay now, sir?
Not yet, sir. Not yet. Maybe is any other program running on your system except this PPT? Something else is...
Nothing. Shall I disconnect and connect again?
Yes, sir. That will be great. You please disconnect and rejoin.
Okay.
Viewers, I request you to please be standby so that in the meantime, we'll be able to fix the voice issue with the speaker. Please wait a moment with us. In the meantime, we'll be connecting to Siva Prasad. And also, dear viewers, let me share with you some things. This program is designed for 2 days, wherein on the first day, we'll be dealing about the statutory background and as well as the form run-through. And also, on the second day, or if possible, today itself, we will be dealing with certain real-time or real-life case studies. And also, we will have a question and answer session tomorrow. So, what I mean, what I request you all is, if you have any real-time issues with regard to the filling up of the GSTR 9 or reporting in the 9C, you please populate all those questions. Maybe you may send it to the branch mail or you may post it in the comments box of the live chat so that we will populate all the questions and we'll forward it to the speaker in advance so that he will be able to come out with a better answers or presentations to you. Sir, GSR sir, in the meantime, can you throw some light upon the other activities or webcasts, forthcoming webcasts which are being planned by the branch so that the members will be aware in advance? Also, you may please throw some light on the first of its kind of what you call a virtual simulated student seminar, which the branch is going to organize. You may please throw some light on those things, sir.
Okay, sir. Dear members, first of its kind, we are just having a seminar like a national conference, like a student national conference. We have been allotted the student national conference. We are doing a simulated part of the student seminar. So like that, in the national conference, we have 4 sessions. We have divided the same in the 4 days. That is, every day one celebrity speaker will speak on the occasion, and next followed by the session chairman, and there will be 3 student speakers, each one talking about on the separate topics. In the day 1, 23rd, it is income tax. Day 2, that is 24th, it is GST, and day 5, day 3, that is 25th, it is company law, and day 4, it is accounting and auditing standards and documentation part. So we have fixed the celebrity speakers and also session chairmen for the same. Yesterday I have given the details of the same to you all. For this day 2 and day 4, CCM's Shekhar sir and MPV sir are accepted to be grace the occasion. And also for the day 1, it is our Sikasa chairman Pampana sir, and day 3 it is the SIRC secretary Abhishek Murali sir. And today is the last date for sending the papers. And I request each one of you, your students should see the conference so that they can present it. This type of conferences we would like to conduct in the near future also in several times. So let your article students also present the papers in these seminars. Let them register as a delegate for the same. There is a delegate registration form for the students also. So let them now that act as a delegates, and then later they can see present the papers in the so many topics. So that is one part. So I request each one of you to inform the same to your students. If the students are watching, they can present the papers from evening, and later they can present the papers from 23rd to 26th. And also
మధ్యలో వస్తుంది, నేను ఒకసారి
inform you about the forthcoming programs also. We are planning with the most sought after speakers, Kapil Goyal sir and Girish Ahuja sir. We are planning these programs to be part of this entire Andhra Pradesh kind of a thing. That is, Andhra Pradesh branches of SIRC of ICA will jointly organize the programs with Kapil Goyal sir and Girish Ahuja sir. Kapil Goyal sir will deal about the deemed fixation of the income with the special emphasis on the demonetization period, and also circle rate of tax, that is stamp value assessments. And Girish Ahuja sir is dealing with the charitable and religious trusts, provisions relating to the charitable and religious trust. These 2 programs are also, we are just in pipeline. This is going to be happen on the 29th and 30th of this month by 11:30 to 1:30, or in the second day 30th it is 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock. So these are all the things, and other programs for the students also we are in the pipeline. Actually we have developed, we have tuned this smart skills programs for the students. So all the smart skills, that is mind mapping, memory techniques, and memory management, and all these things will be from the last 5 days we have planned for the students. And the second series is also ready, and we'll be airing it most probably from 27th onwards, after the completion of this quarantine virtual simulated student seminar. And from 27th onwards up to 3rd, we'll be in the evenings, we'll be having some more interesting, that how to read for the CA exams, how to remember the syllabus that has been already this thing. All these things will be planned from the Sikasa side. So from Sikasa front, and also from the members' point of view, we are making 100% use of this quarantine period up to May 3rd, so that members will get maximum benefit out of it. So I request every member to kindly make use of each and every opportunity that is provided by our branch. So now that I think problem is solved, over to Shiva Prasad sir. Can you take up the things? Shiva
Am I
Prasad sir?
audible, sir? Am I
Yeah,
audible
now
now?
it is audible. Yes, yes.
Hope there are no breaks and
Yeah, of course.
yeah. In the meanwhile, I just scrolled through the live pane. One of the requests I have noticed is to continue the session in English. I'll oblige both. I'll mix it up a bit, both from English and the regional language, and I'll ensure that things are not missed out. Yes, sir. So this is a first experience of mine in going live, and of course I have presented many seminars, but this is an unique experience because I miss the interaction, which is one of the very key ingredients of any speech. But I try to simulate, just now Chairman sir was saying the simulated student seminar. I try to simulate and ensure that it is like unusual seminar. Yes, sir. So the Chairman sir had already made clear the way the session is devised. The first day we are going to discuss the statutory background, the legal part of that. So, and then the second day we will discuss the practical case studies. I have prepared certain case studies which are the normal or day-to-day routine problems that every chartered accountant is facing in filing 9C. Similarly, the accountants are facing in GSTR 9. So those advanced and practical case studies will be like very helpful, and whatever the questions that are left unanswered today are kept for pending, or any other user sessions or user questions also will be taken in the tomorrow session. So going ahead with the topic of the day, this is a theme of the presentation in which we will be going ahead. The applicability and scope of annual return, we will study the statutory background of that. So the purpose and the intent of the statutory forms, the main purpose which the GSTR 9 is sought to achieve and what GSTR 9C is sought to achieve. And of course, we will also be running through the chronology of changes in the forms and the extension of due dates. We all know that there were changes multiple times. And after that, we will go into the study of the form. First, we will take it at an outline level. At a very broad outline level, we will discuss. And then we will also discuss the cross linkages between GSTR 9 and 9C. And then we go into the details of the forms. Friends, first of all, to whom this GSTR 9 and 9C is applicable, we are all through and we have completed one cycle of filing. So by this time, these topics will be already being clear. But anyway, for the sake of completeness of the session, I'm taking you through the annual return is divided into two major forms. The first one is the declaration part, that is GSTR 9 or 9A or 9B, and these are to be filed by the taxpayer. And then wherever it is applicable, there is a reconciliation statement that is to be filed in 9C. And this GSTR 9 shall be filed by all the registered regular dealers. What I mean by registered regular dealers is that for a composition dealer, there is a separate form specified. So those who are registered under section 10, for composition dealers, there is a separate return to be filed. Now, this will give rise to certain interesting topics. What happens if a regular dealer converts into a composition dealer, or a composition dealer upgrades into a regular dealer? Both are possible. So in which case, the instructions have been, the government had clarified that in such a case, the dealer has to file both GSTR 9 as well as GSTR 9A for the respective periods. For the period on which he is under composition, those turnovers will be reflected in GSTR 9A, and the turnovers that are there in GSTR 9 regular registration will be declared in GSTR 9. So therefore, when we go to reconciliation of GSTR 9C, it takes care to eliminate the composition period, the turnover under the composition period, and ensures a comparison between regular registration and the annual turnover in books of accounts. Now, another interesting development in this GSTR 9 is for the financial year 17-18, we have seen it has been extended many a times because of technical problems, because of portal issues, and many people could not file because of the complication that was felt by the trade and industry at large in those forms. For financial year 17-18, wherever the turnover is less than 2 crores, that was made optional. Now, how to read this optional part of that? Many people thought that GSTR 9 need not be filed, but that is very dangerous interpretation. GSTR 9, it is not waived altogether. It is only made optional. What is meant by optional? I will just take you through the original circular itself. So this is it. And this circular, this notification is applicable to financial year 18-19 as well. So wherever the aggregate turnover of a financial year does not exceed 2 crores, then they have an option to furnish annual return. That is, they have an option to furnish GSTR 9, or they have an option not to furnish GSTR 9 also. However, the proviso is a very dangerous part. Provided that the said return shall be deemed to be furnished on the due date. That means, if at all anybody is not filing GSTR 9, it is deemed to have been filed. Whatever data is there in the portal, it will be deemed that the registered person had filed the same. అంటే మనం GSTR 9 వెయ్యకపోతే 2 కోట్ల లోపల వాళ్ళ సంగతి, ఫైనాన్షియల్ ఇయర్ 17-18 అండ్ 18-19 కి 2 crores లోపల ఉన్న వాళ్ళకి GSTR 9 వెయ్యటం ఒక ఆప్షన్, వెయ్యకపోవటం ఆప్షన్ ఇచ్చారు. వెయ్యకపోతే మాత్రం ఏమవుతుంది అని అంటే, ఏదైతే పోర్టల్లో ఉన్నదో అదే మనం వేసేసినట్టుగా కన్సిడర్ అవుతుంది. ఇక్కడ ఇంకొక ప్రాబ్లం కూడా ఉంది దీనివల్ల. వాట్ హ్యాపెన్స్ ఈస్, ఇఫ్ ఇట్ ఈస్ నార్మల్ గా 2 crores above వాళ్ళకి, దే హ్యావ్ an option to file after the due date also with the late fees. However, where the turnover is less than 2 crores, such option of filing with the delay is not there, because the proviso says if it is not furnished before the due date, on the due date it is deemed as filed. అంటే పోర్టల్లో ఏదైతే ఉన్నదో డేటా, దాంతో మీరు GSTR 9 వేసేసినట్టుగా మీ పైన ఫైల్డ్ అని వచ్చేస్తుంది. దీనివల్ల మేజర్ రిస్క్ ఏంటంటే, ఇఫ్ ఎనీ కరెక్షన్స్ ఆర్ టు బి మేడ్, సో మిస్సింగ్ టర్న్ ఓవర్స్ ఉండొచ్చు, రాంగ్ క్లెయిమ్ ఆఫ్ ఐటీసీ ఉండొచ్చు, ఒక హెడ్ లో వేయాల్సిన ట్యాక్సెస్ ఒక హెడ్ లో వేయొచ్చు. ఇందాక చీఫ్ కమిషనర్ గారు ఓపెనింగ్ రిమార్క్స్ లో చెప్పినట్టుగా GSTR 9 ఈజ్ అ లాస్ట్ ఛాన్స్ టు రెక్టిఫై అవర్ మిస్టేక్స్ దట్ వర్ కమిటెడ్ ఇన్ GSTR 1 or 3B. So therefore, if of course it is optional for dealers having less than 2 crore turnover, but if at all any mistakes are there, known mistakes are there, it is strongly advised to file GSTR 9 and to tide over this deeming provision, which is a very dangerous one. So that's it. And this GSTR 9 is to be filed by regular registered dealers, and it need not be filed by input service distributors, persons paying tax under 51, that is TDS and TCS, those who are registered only for that purpose. And then casual taxable persons need not file, non-resident taxable persons need not file GSTR 9. Now, in the regular category itself, there are 3 forms notified: GSTR 9, GSTR 9A and 9B. 9A is a form that is to be filed by composition dealers, of course, for the period for which they are under composition. Now, for e-commerce dealers who are required to collect TCS under section 52, TCS ఉన్న వాళ్ళకి 9B అనే ఫామ్ ఉంది. ఇది ఎక్కువ ప్రాక్టికల్ లో ఎక్కువ మనకి అప్లికేషన్ లోకి వచ్చేది కాదు. Then GSTR 9C. GSTR 9C is a reconciliation form. We will go into the depth of the what is reconciliation form, how it is, which section has mandated. That is the very purpose of today's session. At the outset, the GSTR 9C is required or mandated for every registered dealer having a turnover more than 2 crores. So this is a provision for 17-18. Only for the financial year 18-19, one-time relief had been given, that wherever the turnover is less than 5 crore, that is up to 5 crore, the GSTR 9C need not be filed. Okay, this was also introduced in a very strange manner. I will go into the legal intricacies a little later. Provision చూసేటప్పుడు. Then due dates for the financial year 17-18 and for the financial year 18-19. We have all lived through this. So the due dates have been extended time and again because of various problems, and almost in the month of November, major simplification of GSTR 9 and 9C were had been taken up, and then number of tables ni optional చేయటం జరిగింది. సో ఏవైతే హెచ్ఎస్ఎన్ వైజ్ డీటెయిల్స్ ఇవ్వటం అలాంటి డిఫికల్టీస్ ఏవైతే ఉన్నాయో వాటన్నిటిని రిమూవ్ చేస్తూ వాటన్నిటిని ఆప్షనల్ చేశారు. ఎక్కడ దేన్ని వేవ్ చేయలేదు. దిస్ ఈస్ వెరీ ఇంపార్టెంట్. నథింగ్ ఈస్ వేవ్డ్, దే వర్ ఓన్లీ మేడ్ ఆప్షనల్. సో వేర్ ఎవర్ దేర్ ఈస్ ఎ వే టు ఫిల్, ఇట్ ఈస్ బెటర్ టు ఫిల్ బికాస్ the filling up will give us an option to present ourselves in a better manner. సో ఎక్కడైతే అవకాశం ఉందో అక్కడ చెప్పటం వల్ల ఏమవుతుందనంటే మనం సప్రెషన్ చేసిన వాళ్ళం అవ్వము. అలానే రేపు షోకాజ్ నోటీసెస్ ఏదైనా వచ్చినప్పటికీ మన 9 and 9Cలో ఆల్రెడీ చెప్పు ఉన్నది, ఇట్ విల్ కమ్ యాజ్ అ ప్రొటెక్షన్ ఫర్ us. Now as the session name goes, the statutory background and the outline of the forms. So the statutory backdrop of this provision, what is this GSTR 9 and 9C annual return? What is the purpose? మనకి ఈ annual return అనే కాన్సెప్ట్ ఎర్లియర్ వ్యాట్ రిజిమ్ లో కూడా ఉంది. వ్యాట్ 200 అని మనం ఎవ్రీ మంత్ మనం మంత్లీ రిటర్న్స్ ఫైల్ చేస్తున్నా కానీ we used to file one consolidated return, that is VAT 200. Okay. So similarly under other laws also there is a concept of filing one annual return which is a consolidated one. Now there are first of all, what is a return? We are calling everything as a return. GSTR 1 we are calling it as a return. GSTR 2 of course it is not there, that also we are calling it as a return, inward return, outward supplies return. And then however, return means only a return that is prescribed or otherwise required to be furnished under the act or rules made thereunder. Why? Because for any discrepancy in return there is a possibility of a scrutiny. Scrutiny అనేది మనకి రిటర్న్ లో ఉన్న మిస్టేక్స్ కే వస్తుంది. సో రిటర్న్ అంటే ఏంటి, రిటర్న్ అంటే ఏంటి అన్న దానికి మనకి వేరియస్ ప్రొవిజన్స్ లో వాట్ ఈస్ ఎ రిటర్న్ అండ్ వాట్ ఈస్ ఎ స్టేట్మెంట్ అనే డిఫరెన్షియేషన్ ని చేస్తూ ఐ హావ్ ప్రెజెంటెడ్ వన్ table here. These are the various informations that we have to file. Of course, we have to file many other information, many other statements also. In the context of reporting of our turnovers or inward supplies, I have tabulated here. Section 37 asks us, requires everyone to file GSTR 1. So this is not a return. The heading of the statement is also furnishing details of outward supplies. Similarly, section 46 deals about notice in case returns are not filed. Even that section does not deal with section 37. Why? Because GSTR 37 is a statement. It is only a declaration of certain information. Of course, it will culminate into GSTR 3B. GSTR 1 3B లోకి వెళ్ళడానికి ఉపయోగపడుతుంది కానీ GSTR 1 ని యాజ్ ఇట్ ఈస్ గా టెక్నికల్ గా లీగల్ బ్యాక్ డ్రాప్ లో దాన్ని మనం రిటర్న్ అని పిలవడానికి కుదరదు. Similarly, the section 38 mandates us to file GSTR 2, which is a statement wherein we furnish the details of inward supplies. That is also not a return. Now coming to the return part, GSTR 3 is a combination of both GSTR 1 and 2, and this is a return. Now ఇది చాలా కాంట్రవర్సీకి దారి తీసింది whether 3B is a return or not, because 3B was introduced as an alternate or a time gap, stop gap arrangement for 3. Therefore it cannot assume the status of return అన్న దాని మీద వెళ్ళింది. And then government had retrospectively amended and said that 3B is a return, meaning that all the ITC restrictions or other dependent వాటన్నిటిని కూడా దానికి అప్లై అవ్వడం కోసం 3Bని రిటర్న్ అని చెప్పడం జరిగింది. ఎనీవే ఇవాళ థీమ్ అది కాదు. 3 or 3B, this is a return. So similarly 3 లాగానే ఇదే సెక్షన్ 39 లో we will file GSTR 4 కాంపోజిషన్ డీలర్స్ కి కానీ 7 GSTR 5 7 ఇవన్నీ కూడా 8 ఇవన్నీ మనం ఏవైతే ఈ-కామర్స్ ఆపరేటర్స్ కి ఆర్ TDS ఆర్ TCS ఇవన్నీ కూడా వాట్ ఎవర్ ఈస్ ఇంటిమేటెడ్ అండర్ సెక్షన్ 39, దట్ ఈస్ అ రిటర్న్. And then we have another section for returns which is the topic of today, that is section 44, which is annual return. And besides this annual return there is also another return under section 45. This is final return. This final return is a different concept. wherever registration had been surrendered, manantata మనం సరెండర్ చేసిన ఆర్ క్యాన్సిలేషన్ బై ద డిపార్ట్మెంట్, ఇలాంటి సందర్భాల్లో ఒక క్లోజింగ్ రిటర్న్ ని మనం ఫైల్ చేస్తాం. సో wherever there is a termination of registration, either on the side of SSC or in the side of the taxpayer or at the behest of the department, suo motu by the department, wherever there is a termination in registration, then we have to file final return. Now ikkada konni interesting topics we have to discuss. Going ahead, so this is what a return is. Then after the return, we have got an audit prescribed under section 35(5). Because 35(5) has mandated the audit, we are here to discuss GSTR 9C, which is a reconciliation statement to be filed along with the annual return. So what is an audit? There is one definition for audit, but this definition for audit, whether it was given in the context of 9C or it was given in the context of section 65, 66, where the department can undertake an audit or instruct a special audit, whatever, this is not dependent on the context. So audit అన్నదాన్ని మనం ఒక జనరల్ సెన్స్ లో అసలు ఆడిట్ అంటే ఏంటి అన్నదానికి డెఫినేషన్ చూస్తే means examination of records, returns, other documents maintained or furnished by the registered person under the act or rules. Then to verify, the purpose of the audit is to verify the correctness of 1, 2, 3, 4. He had mentioned 4 items to be verified. This is very, very important. Our whole topic will revolve around this. So to set this context right, I'm ఒకసారి audit definition లోంచి వెళ్ళటం జరుగుతుంది. Turnover declared. So what we reconcile is this: the turnover declared, that is part 1, and the taxes paid. Thirdly, the refund claimed and the input tax credit claimed. So indulo ee turnover, taxes and input will form the central stage for both GSTR 9 and 9C. And the objective of audit is also mentioned here, to assess the compliance with the provisions of the act or rules made thereunder. So it is not limited for calculation. Audit ni manam, we cannot reduce it to a clerical exercise of calculating the correctness of taxes paid alone. So what is the scope of audit? What is the scope of GSTR 9C? Is it sufficient enough if we assert the correctness of taxes paid? No. We have to assess the whole of the compliance of the provisions of the act, not only of the act but also the rules made thereunder. Therefore, procedural lapses which may have an impact, manaki GSTR 9C lo last certification portion ki vellinappudu this we will discuss in detail, but I am only setting up the stage for our onward discussion. Then who had asked us to audit and who had asked us to file the annual return? That is the most important part. So section 35 subsection 5 and section 44, these are the operative part. These are the foundation or founding stones of GSTR 9 and 9C. Now what section 35(5) says is, every registered person whose turnover, here the word used is turnover. Normally the word used in the act is aggregate turnover. Even in the rules, the word used is aggregate turnover. There is a slight difference between turnover and aggregate turnover, and more particularly turnover is used in the context of a state or union territory, whereas aggregate turnover means the turnover across the country. That means across the pan. So anyway, be that it may, we'll discuss it. Every registered person whose turnover during a financial year exceeds the prescribed limit. So the section 35 is not mentioning the prescribed limit. It only says if it exceeds the prescribed limit, and it is up to the rules to mention the prescribed limit. So therefore the point to note is the 2 crore limit for audit is not mentioned in the act. It was mentioned in the rules. Exceeds the prescribed limit shall get his accounts audited. This is an important phrase. What is get his accounts audited? తన అకౌంట్స్ ని ఆడిట్ చేయించుకోవాలి అని అన్నారు. ఆల్రెడీ ఆడిట్ అయిపోయి ఉంటే, ఇన్కమ్ ట్యాక్స్ యాక్ట్ ఆర్ కంపెనీస్ యాక్ట్ ఆర్ ఎనీ అదర్ సొసైటీస్ రిజిస్ట్రేషన్ యాక్ట్, ట్రస్ట్స్ or any other special act, if the accounts are already audited, then whether section 35(5) asks us to get the accounts audited again. So is it a special audit under the GST or an additional audit under the GST, or get his accounts audited ki we can another meaning em cheppukochu ante, already audit ayipote there is no requirement of an audit, but already audit avvakapote then they have to get his accounts audited. So then the press releases or the context of GSTR 9C కొంత మనం ఫామ్ ని బట్టి కూడా మనం అర్థం చేసుకోవాల్సి ఉన్నది. బికాస్ చాలా చోట్ల డ్రాఫ్టింగ్ ఆఫ్ ద యాక్ట్ లో కొన్ని ఇబ్బందులు, ఇప్పుడు చెప్పినట్టుగా ఈ టర్న్ ఓవర్ అన్నది సెక్షన్ లో వాడారు, రూల్స్ లో the word used is aggregate turnover. Similarly, it could have been more specific. Anyway, the final clarification given is, if the accounts are already audited, there is no requirement for another audit only for the purpose of GST. If the accounts are not already audited, then there is a requirement for another audit. Now, another important point, by a chartered accountant or a cost accountant. So only chartered accountant and cost accountant are entitled to audit here. Now, another interesting question comes up. If the accounts are already audited, but not by a chartered accountant or a cost accountant under a different act, then there is a requirement to get the accounts audited, because the accounts need to be audited by a chartered accountant or a cost accountant. Okay, that is a point. So already audit chartered accountant ద్వారా కాకుండా వేరే ఆడిట్ ఏదన్నా అయి ఉంటే సొసైటీస్ లో కానీ ఏజీ ఆడిట్ లో కానీ ఆర్ ఇంకేదన్నా అదర్ సెల్ఫ్ మెకానిజం తో ఒక ఆడిట్ మెకానిజం తో ఆడిట్ అయి ఉంటే సొసైటీస్ కింద ఆర్ కోఆపరేటివ్ సొసైటీస్ కింద, దట్ ఆడిట్ విల్ నాట్ సఫైస్ ఫర్ 35(5). ఆ ఆడిట్ సరిపోదు, మళ్ళీ ఆడిట్ చేయించుకోవాల్సిన అవసరం ఉంటుంది. అండ్ షల్ సబ్మిట్ ఎ కాపీ ఆఫ్ ఆడిటెడ్ యాన్యువల్ అకౌంట్స్. ఇక్కడ ఆడిట్ రిపోర్ట్ అంటం లేదు, shall submit a copy of audited annual accounts and the reconciliation statement under subsection 2 of section 34. So audited annual accounts ni reconciliation statement ni immantunnadu. Normally an audit will result into an audit report. You take statutory audit, you take tax audit, you take any other audit, the culminating point of an audit is audit report. But here section 35(5) strangely is not asking us to give us an audit report. Rather, it uses the word reconciliation statement. Okay, so as a professional, a guidance note or a auditing standard ద్వారా మనం గైడ్ అవుతాము. That is another point. Is it a statement? Is it a report? Or is it a certificate? Recent గా ఇది వరకు 9C లో true and correct అని ఉండేది word. Therefore, it was understood as a certificate. Now, the true and correct words are replaced with true and fair. సో ఇప్పుడు చార్టెడ్ అకౌంటెంట్ ట్రూ అండ్ కరెక్ట్ అని చెప్పక్కర్లేదు, కరెక్ట్ అని చెప్పాలంటే అబ్సల్యూట్ అష్యూరెన్స్ ఇవ్వాల్సి ఉంటుంది. నౌ దర్ ఇస్ నో అబ్సల్యూట్ అష్యూరెన్స్, వీ కెన్ గివ్ ఎ రీజనబుల్ అష్యూరెన్స్. సో ఇన్ ద ఫ్రేమ్వర్క్ ఆఫ్ ఆడిటింగ్ స్టాండర్డ్స్ ఇన్ విచ్ వీఆర్ ఇన్, నౌ ఇట్ విల్ టేక్ ద క్యారెక్టర్ ఆఫ్ అన్ అష్యూరెన్స్. బట్ దెన్ స్ట్రేంజ్లీ దెర్ ఇస్ అనదర్ క్యారెక్టర్ ఆఫ్ 9C. మనం ఇంతవరకు ఏ ఆడిట్ రిపోర్ట్ లోనూ రికమెండేషన్స్ ఇవ్వలేదు. యాజ్ అన్ ఆడిటర్ వీ విల్ నెవర్ రికమెండ్ ఎనీథింగ్. వీ విల్ ఓన్లీ ప్రజెంట్ అవర్ అబ్జర్వేషన్స్. We will only give our negative or positive or adverse remarks that we have come across, and we express an opinion. So the auditor's role is to express an opinion whether the books of accounts or the whatever the documents that are subjected to audit are true and fair. For the first time, as an auditing professional, we are supposed to recommend something to the government or to the consumer of the report. Okay, so that is also another new responsibility cast on the profession, that also we will discuss. And such other document in such manner as may be prescribed. These are all attachments. So now there are certain interesting questions that are coming out of this, but let me take those questions after completing the other counterpart also, because ikkada emantunnadante the reconciliation statement as required under subsection 2. Now let us continue our discussion. Section 44, what it says is, every registered person other than ISD, that TDS and TCS and casual taxable person, non-resident person, so that already we have seen, every registered person shall file an annual return, shall furnish an annual return for every financial year electronically in such form, that is fine, on or before the 31st day of December. This is one strange part. The due date was given in the act itself. Normal ga due dates ni within such time as may be prescribed అని ఉంటే అది రూల్స్ లో నోటిఫై అయి ఉండేది. రూల్స్ లో నోటిఫై అయి ఉంటే it is easier to change the rule, because rule యొక్క amendment it can be made through a notification. But here the due date was specified in the act itself. That is the reason why time and again the government has to come with the removal of difficulty orders, because it is there in the act itself. Now, who has to furnish the annual return? Again, here also the phrase used is every registered person. Now here also the phrase used is every registered person. This is talking about an annual return. We already seen annual return means GSTR 9. It was also further clarified in Rule 80 as to who has to file which form and all. Now come to subsection 2. Every registered person who is required to get his accounts audited under subsection 5 of 35, which we have already seen, shall furnish the annual return along with a copy of audited financial statements and reconciliation statement. This is very interesting. So therefore, the Act is not asking us to file 9C directly. The Act is asking us to file annual return, that is GSTR 9, and that GSTR 9 shall be filed along with a copy of reconciliation statement, that is 9C, which means that 9C is forming an integral part of 9. 9C is like an annexure to 9. 9C is like one of the attachments to 9. Now, దీనివల్ల చాలా లీగల్ బ్యాక్డ్రాప్ మనకి సెట్ అవుతుంది. కొన్ని క్వశ్చన్స్ ఇందులోంచి వస్తున్నాయి. What happens if 9 is filed and 9C is not filed? Because annual return shall be filed. So subsection 1 is talking about 9. Subsection 2 is talking about 9C. No. Subsection 2 is also talking about 9. The manner in which the 9 has to be filed is given by subsection 2. And while mentioning the manner in which it has to be filed, it says that the reconciliation statement shall also to be filed. That is the very reason, interestingly, there is no second due date specified here, because it goes as a copy, as an attachment, as an annexure. So what happens if 9C is not filed but 9 is filed? Now, another interesting question: is there a separate late fees for 9 and a separate late fees for 9C? Another interesting question: are there two penalties or a singular penalty? Okay. Now, another question: what happens if 9 is filed and 9C couldn't be filed? Will it be considered as a defective return? This concept we are very used to income tax return. So wherever certain addition or certain mandatory attachments, requirements, signatures, or some other things are not there, it will become a defective return. Okay. Earlier, paying of self-assessment tax, it was not under the defective. Now it was made into a defective. So what makes it into a defective is, unless it is specified, it was filed in the specified manner, it is considered as not being filed. Unless the defect is cured, it is as good as not being filed. Okay. Now, when the profession is unable to cope up with the technical glitches of 9 and 9C, there were a lot of discussion in the WhatsApp. There will be 100 rupees of late fee, 100 plus 100, 200 rupees of late fee for 9. But for 9C, there will be a general penalty of 25,000. This is one sentence that has scared the profession like anything. Now, adi nijamena 9C అనేది ఇప్పుడు మనం చూస్తే ఇక్కడ ఉన్న సెక్షన్ యొక్క భాష చూస్తే 9C అనేది ఒక సపరేట్ రిటర్న్ కానే కాదు, 9లో ఒక అంతర్భాగం. 9తో పాటే 9C. సో 2 కోట్లు దాటినప్పుడు 9 వేసి 9C వేయకపోతే 9 కూడా వేయనట్టే. This was also clarified in one of the press releases. I can't quote immediately, but this was also clarified by this one. Now, the machinery part of that, how to file, which form to file, who has to file which form, the machinery part anta deeniki corresponding section 35 and section 44 corresponding rules were there in Rule 80. So it says every registered person other than ISD who need not file, they have to file. All regular dealers has to file in 9. And then composition dealers has to file in 9A, and then e-commerce dealers have to file in 9B. This is what it has said. And subsection 3, what it says is every registered person whose aggregate turnover, this is a conflict which I have said. The rule is using the word aggregate turnover, the section is using the word turnover. So what is the implication of that? We will look into that. Whose during a financial year exceeds 2 crores of rupees shall get his accounts audited as specified in 35(5) and furnish a copy of audited annual accounts. Now, audited annual accounts and the reconciliation statement duly certified in Form 9C. So we have to give two things. This is very important. So I draw the attention to here. మనం 9C లో 2 భాగాలు ఇవ్వాలి. ఒకటి 9C అనే ఫామ్, రెండోది audited annual accounts. Electronical ga, either through facilitation center or directly. Now the point is, in what way this aggregate turnover and turnover are important. Aggregate turnover definition relates to whole of the turnover of an SSC or a taxpayer across the country. That means of all the entities under a PAN, Whereas a registered turnover, I'll go to the కొన్ని ఇంపార్టెంట్ డెఫినేషన్స్ ని ఈ ప్రెజెంటేషన్ లోనే పేస్ట్ చేసి ఉంచాను. So turnover in state means, of course, turnover means aggregate value of all taxable, exempt, export, interstate supply of goods or services, or both. Okay, so turnover normally relates to a state and aggregate turnover normally relates to, by definition, operational part wise it is one and the same. In aggregate turnover lo kuda ee 4 legs unnai: 1 taxable, 2 exempt, 3 export, 4 interstate supply between distinct entities. That means all the persons having the same PAN number. The only differentiating factor as it appears is between the state. Here it is aggregate. Now it was clarified that though the section has adopted the word turnover, consider it as aggregate turnover itself. Therefore, the 2 crore limit turnover shall be calculated at pan India level but not at state level. Now what happens is, if as an entity as a whole, if the turnover exceeds 2 crores, then the audit requirement is applies, triggers, and it is applicable to all the entities of that, all the registered GSTNs of that entity. Okay, now another question: shall they have to file individual 9C for every one of the GST registration, or one 9C for entity as a whole? We are all through the system, so ipadiki idantha clarify ayipoyi untundi. So 9C vachesariki it has to be filed for every registration, because this rule is there in every SGST Act as well as in the CGST Act. Therefore, this rule is applicable. And another point is, every registered person. Registered person is a very important phrase. Registered person and person are different. So person could be the same, but registered person means oka person ki 4 registrations unte 4 registered entities ayipotunnadu. So for every registered person means for every registration, simply put. So prati registration ki 9C anadani manam file cheyavalsi untundi. Prati registration ki 9 anedi file cheyavalsi untundi. Okasari 2 crore turnover matram it has to be calculated at an aggregate level. Now what about this audited annual accounts? Does that mean that there shall be an audited annual accounts for every registration? Which means if an entity is having its presence in 4 states, will it require a registration? Will it require an audited annual accounts in every state? If that be the case, what section 35(5) says is, he has to get his accounts audited. That means whether it is imposing an audit at state level, whether it is imposing an audit at registration level, to be more precise. So okokka registration ki okokka audit avasarama, or 9C varaku okay, 9C varaku okay. Ikkada there are 2 parts. He has to submit a copy of audited annual accounts. So the audited annual accounts, whether it is of a state or whether it is of a country, there is no clarity in the act or rules. But by practice and by press releases and by clarifications given, and the way the form is worded, 9C lo manaki table 5A lo oka sentence entante, there shall be some extract of the turnover from the entity as a whole. Ante oka state ki kavalsina turnover ni total turnover మొత్తం దేశం మొత్తంలో ఉన్న టర్నోవర్ నుంచి ఈ స్టేట్ టర్నోవర్ ని ఎక్స్ట్రాక్ట్ చేయమంటున్నాడు. అంటే అంతవరకు అరైవ్ అయ్యి ఇవ్వమంటున్నాడు. Therefore, finally the conclusion is like this: that the audited annual accounts can be at entity level. Let me come to rule 80, where the question is, the audited annual accounts, it can be at entity level, but form 9C shall have to be at registration level. So one entity level audited financial statements is sufficient, but there shall be a different 9Cs at every level. Now let us proceed further. This is a proviso introduced by in this current year. This was introduced by notification 16/2020. So it is a relaxation given for financial year 18-19. What it says is, every registered person whose aggregate turnover during financial year 18-19 exceeds 5 crores, then he shall get his accounts audited. This is very strange. ఇది ఇలా డ్రాఫ్ట్ అవ్వటం చాలా విచిత్రంగా డ్రాఫ్ట్ అయి ఉన్నది ఇది. Why? Because however ano, notwithstanding, however, subject to, ilanti words levu. There are 2 equally standing sentences.
the rule, sub-rule 3 says if it is more than 2 crores, you have to get audited. And proviso says if it is more than 5 crores, we have to get audited. Proviso will not operate contrary or proviso will not withstand on an ledu. It should have been notwithstanding, then it could have been a proper drafting. But going by harmonious interpretation, రెండింటిని కలిపి అర్థం చేసుకుంటే అక్కడ ఉన్న డ్రాఫ్టింగ్ ని కాసేపు పక్కన పెట్టి, the reasonable interpretation possible is for the financial year 18-19, the limit of turnover is 5 crores. So that is how we are understanding that. So, and the 5 crores is again at an entity level. So we have seen what is turnover and what is aggregate turnover. Let me go into further details, further depths of the word turnover. What is turnover? Turnover means aggregate value of supply. This is very important phrase. Value of supply is not a general English, is not a loosely worded word, but it is a defined word. Section 15 defines value of taxable supply. So whenever the GST Act uses the word turnover, it only means the value as defined by GST Act. So when turnover exceeds 2 crores, where from we have to get the turnover? What is the turnover? Shall we have to look into the audited financial statements to know the turnover? No. Turnover means turnover as calculated in as per the provisions of GST. So that means even to decide whether audit is applicable or not, even to decide which form is to be filled and all, we have to first calculate the turnover, and the turnover shall be calculated as per the provisions of GST Act. Okay, this will have a very far-reaching impact. And then exempt supplies will also form part of turnover. This we all know. But what is an exempt supply? That is very interesting. Export of goods or services, then interstate supply of goods or services are both from the state or union territory by the said taxable person. Interstate person of persons having the same PAN number. This is what aggregate turnover definition is. So interstate supplies of a person having the same PAN account number, which means that if there is a transaction of either goods or services is there between entities, between the registrations of the same entity, and where one entity is in one state and the other entity is in the other state, even that branch the branch transfer, even that forms part of aggregate turnover. Now, one interesting point from out of that is why the word interstate. Now we all know there is a business vertical concept under GST. One entity can have multiple registrations in a single state itself. Okay. Now that business vertical concept was also done away with from financial year 18. Financial year 18 నుంచి business vertical concept తీసేసి ఒకే స్టేట్ లో మల్టిపుల్ రిజిస్ట్రేషన్స్ కూడా తీసుకోవచ్చు. So many people were putting in this YouTube to go with complete English. I'm consciously repeating some important parts in Telugu. With that, there was no loss of content in English. I'm ensuring that, but not a problem. It will be convenient to continue in one language, but then I will use as simple or as easier this one to make it clear to one and all. Okay. Continuing with aggregate turnover. So aggregate turnover includes taxable, exempt, export, and interstate. So now the gray area from this definition is what happens if two registrations are there in a state and one entity makes a turnover to one entity, makes an outward supply to another entity. They are two separate registrations. Therefore, first question, whether there is a outward tax or not. We know section 25(4) defines them as distinct persons, and schedule 1 says that any transaction between a distinct person with or without consideration. If it is with consideration, no doubt it is forming part of turnover directly. Even if it is without consideration, we consider it as a taxable outward supply, and therefore it has to be taxed. But it is not forming part of aggregate turnover. Now, multiple views are there. Interstate was used in a generic sense. It includes intrastate. That is one possible interpretation most of the people are saying. But then this part is not there in turnover in a state. That is another interesting remark. Anyway, for calculation of aggregate turnover, we go by a simple logic, or my personal opinion is that whether it is interstate or intrastate, if it is taxable, the point is, if it is taxable, it has to be considered. Even if this was missed out, there is no harm. This is only a duplication or an overlap, because anyway the interstate supplies between persons of same PAN number is covered under taxable supply by virtue of Schedule 1. Therefore, my view is, whether within the state or outside the state, all the branch transfer turnover, all the turnover between the units of a same entity shall be calculated in aggregate turnover. Now, one important point we made is turnover is not what appears to be turnover in the financial statements. That is very dangerous sentence. Okay, that is very, very dangerous. And as a professional, we have to take very due care in considering and reporting the turnover. Okay, ఈవెన్ అకౌంటెంట్స్ వాళ్ళు కూడా ఇక్కడ గమనించవలసింది ఏంటి అంటే, టర్నోవర్ అనే దానికి ఒక ప్రత్యేకమైన మీనింగ్ ఉన్నది. ఆ ప్రత్యేకమైన మీనింగ్ ప్రకారంగా టర్నోవర్ ని మళ్ళా క్యాలిక్యులేట్ చేసుకొని చూసుకోవాలి తప్ప, పుస్తకంలో ఏదైతే టర్నోవర్ గా కనపడుతుందో అది టర్నోవర్ కాదు. సో ఫర్దర్ డ్వెల్లింగ్ ఇట్ ఆన్ టు దట్, one of the most popular questions that we come across in almost all the seminars, in almost all the interactions is, this question we have already answered. Section 35 uses the word turnover, but Rule 80 uses the word aggregate turnover. How to understand this? It shall be understood as aggregate turnover only, that we have clarified. And the second one is whether every income reflected in income tax return shall be reported in GSTR 9. This is one of the most popular and famous questions. Shall every income that is there in income tax turnover be reported in GSTR 9? More particularly in case of proprietary concerns, individuals, what happens is income tax return do contain many incomes like salaries, income from house property. There could be certain gifts, but those gifts are not satisfying the conditions of Section 56 or so under the other sources, and then they become taxable under the Income Tax Act. So it is a gift, but yet taxable under the other sources. And then there could be capital gains. Needless to say about the profits and gains from business or profession. Shall we have to report every one of these items in GSTR 9 or 9C? Well, the answer is mostly yes. 90% of the cases, every one of these will get reflected to GSTR 9. Why? Because recently there was a change in GSTR 9. Not very recently, of course. In 2018 itself, GSTR 9 was changed. Apart from exempt, nil, and non-GST, no supply was also included. So what happens with no supply is, even if that is not a turnover under GST, even if there is no supply, the concept of supply is not there, ainapatiki it has to be reported. So I'm only saying whether it has to be reported or not. I'm not talking about taxes. Whether it has to be reported, the answer is yes. Anything that has got a characteristic of income shall be reported in GSTR 9. కాబట్టి మనకి ఇన్కమ్ ట్యాక్స్ రిటర్న్ లో వచ్చిన ప్రతిదీ, అది శాలరీ అవనివ్వండి, శాలరీ అసలు జిఎస్టీ లేదు కదా, జిఎస్టీ లేదు కాబట్టి టెక్నికల్ గా దాన్ని ఏమంటామని అంటే, దాన్ని ఎగ్జామ్ట్ అనాలా నో సప్లై అనాలా అనేది అదొక టెక్నికల్ ఇష్యూ. టెక్నికల్లీ ఇట్ ఈస్ నో సప్లై because it is falling under Schedule 3. It was neither a good nor a service. When it is neither a good nor service, the question of supply doesn't arise. So therefore it will fall under the head no supply. But no supply is also a reportable item under 9. That is the point I am trying to say. So even no supply kuda declare cheyali kabatti, whether it is a salary, house property, anything shall be reported in GSTR 9. Now, shall we have to report something other than what we have reported under income tax return also? The answer is again yes, because what is turnover under GST shall be reported. What is not turnover under income tax and turnover under GST, there are a number of examples we will take up one by one. Now, another common belief in most of the accountants and even in a few chartered accountants is that turnover is a concept that is tied up to the income side of the profit and loss account. Whenever we say turnover, we tend to go to the income side of the profit and loss account. That is a natural tendency. అదొక అలవాటుగా టర్నోవర్ అంటే ఎక్కడ ఉందంటే ప్రాఫిట్ అండ్ లాస్కి వెళ్తాం. బట్ జిఎస్టీలో టర్నోవర్ అనే దానికి ప్రత్యేకమైన మీనింగ్ ఉంది. జిఎస్టీలో టర్నోవర్ అంటే అది కేవలం ప్రాఫిట్ అండ్ లాస్ అకౌంట్ లో ఇన్కమ్ సైడే ఉండాల్సిన అవసరం లేదు. ఇట్ కెన్ స్టే ఇన్ ఎనీ ఆఫ్ ద 4 quadrants of accounts. It can be there in incomes, it can be there in expenses, it can be there in assets, it can be there in liabilities also. So turnover need not come from the top right of the profit and loss account. It can come from any corner of the financial statements. Let us take a few examples. So before we go into the study of the firms, certain concepts we have to be very, very clear. So that is the reason why I am intentionally triggering and controversy kind of a thing on that and then clarifying it. Take the example of fixed assets. Even the sale of fixed assets, there is no concept of capital receipt in GST. Even the sale of a fixed asset is very much a part of turnover. See, the turnover, every word will have its meaning in the context in which it is used. Under GST, turnover has a special meaning. So GST lo ఉన్న turnover ni మామూలు turnover తో పోల్చుకొని కన్ఫ్యూజ్ అవ్వకూడదు మనం. So sale of a fixed asset or sale of any current asset or even scrap sale, అవన్నీ కూడా మనకి బ్యాలెన్స్ షీట్ లోనే ఉండొచ్చు. దీనికి సంబంధించిన ప్రాఫిట్ ఆర్ లాస్ మాత్రమే P&L కి రిఫ్లెక్ట్ అవుతుంది. బట్ టర్నోవర్ మీన్స్ ఎ డిఫరెంట్ కాన్సెప్ట్. అండ్ దెన్ షల్ వీ హ్యావ్ టు స్క్రూటినైజ్ ద డెటార్స్? మోస్ట్లీ డెటార్స్ షెడ్యూల్ నుంచి వాటిలోంచి ఎక్కువగా ఉండకపోవచ్చు. బట్ ఇన్సిడెంటల్ ఇంట్రెస్ట్ వీ హ్యావ్ టు టేక్ వెరీ డ్యూ కేర్, బికాస్ ఎనీ ఇన్సిడెంటల్ ఇంట్రెస్ట్, additional charges, damages or any other amounts that we collect from debtors will also form part of turnover. Will also form part of turnover of goods. That is very important. So if we sell certain goods to a debtor and the debtor fails to pay within the specified credit period of within the specified time, we by as a principle, as a terms of the contract, we collect certain interest. Now this interest is not having any special identity under GST. As per section 15 subsection 2 values lo em kalavali ane dantlo idi kuda manam idi varaku cover chesin sessions lo kuda this was covered at length. So ee incidental ఇన్కమ్స్ ఏవైతే ఉన్నాయో అవన్నీ కూడా టర్న్ ఓవర్ లో కలుస్తాయి. అండ్ దెన్ కరెంట్ లయబిలిటీస్, ఈ కరెంట్ లయబిలిటీస్ సైడ్, బ్యాలెన్స్ షీట్ లో లయబిలిటీస్ సైడ్, ఇక్కడ అసెట్ సైడ్ చూసాం, బ్యాలెన్స్ షీట్ లో లయబిలిటీ సైడ్ కూడా ఏదైనా ఇన్కమ్ ఉండొచ్చా అంటే ఉండొచ్చు. అడ్వాన్సెస్ రిసీవ్డ్, క్లాసిక్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్. సో అడ్వాన్సెస్ రిసీవ్డ్ ఆన్ గూడ్స్ ఆన్ సర్వీసెస్ యాజ్ పర్ యాక్ట్, బట్ దెన్ October 2017, October 2018 లో ఇట్ వాజ్ చేంజ్డ్ అండ్ దెన్ సెడ్ దట్ October 2017, sorry. So advances received on goods was kept outside and time of supply లో గురించి కూడా దాన్ని తీసివేయడం జరిగింది. Therefore advances received on supply on services వచ్చేసరికి still it is the trigger point of time of supply and there is a tax on that, and if there is a tax on that, it forms part of turnover as well. Okay, so therefore when turnover 2 crores exceed ainda avaleda, whether 2 crore turnover has crossed or not, whether the 5 crore turnover has crossed or not, we have to consider all of this. We have to consider the sale value of fixed asset. Not only the sale value of fixed asset, even there is a further intricacy over there. What happens is, as per section 18, if a fixed asset, if a capital asset is sold, normally GST considers the life of a fixed asset to be 60 months. It has never stated that. But then what happens is, if what it means by section 18 is that if any asset is sold within 60 months, ante oka 60 నెలల లోపల 5 ఏళ్ల లోపల గనుక ఒక asset ని అమ్మేస్తే, then the turnover is the sale value that we have obtained or the proportionate input that we have to reverse. That will be the tax. So antaki sambandhinchi the proportionate value of the asset in proportion to what we have to, adi manaki value of the supply అయిపోతుంది. So therefore turnover ni calculate చేసేటప్పుడు that also we have to take care. Sorry, turnover is sale value, but tax payable will change. It will not affect turnover. So turnover is always a sale proceeds. Fine, let me stand corrected on that. Then so now we are a little disturbed on the concept of turnover, because everything under Income Tax Act, whether it is going routed through capital account, that is one common habit. What happens is, some of the personal incomes like interests or capital gains or even salaries also, at times what happens is it will not be routed through the business trading account. It will be routed directly to the capital account. Even then they are also to be considered as turnover. And then turnover need not come from one bucket. It can come from any corner of the financial statements we have seen. Now, this has opened up the horizons like anything. Now, can we say whether every income or inflow of money is turnover? Any income, any inflow of money is turnover. Can we go to such an extreme extent? Why? Because two things. Turnover includes both taxable and exempt. So whether there is a tax, whether there is no tax. And exempt includes non-taxable supplies also. In other words, even petrol, there is no GST, there is no levy. Okay, alcoholic liquor, there is no levy. Alcoholic liquor, there was no levy at all. And then 5 petroleum products, there was no levy as of now. Time being, there is no levy. So even that non-leviable items, they fall under exempt, and because they fall under exempt, they will form part of turnover. Okay, so because turnover includes both taxable and exempt, and then turnover of what? Either goods or services. Then service definition, if you see, service means anything other than goods. So because of these two extremely broadening sentences that are there in GST, anything that we can conceive and that is not fitting into the definition of goods will fall under services, and whether there is tax, whether there is no tax, it will fall under the head turnover. Okay, so can we go to such an extent that every income or inflow of money is turnover? Now let us see certain examples. Okay, so at the end of these worked examples, we will conclude. The first one is insurance claim received from insurance company. Okay, I can't ask your views because this is a monologue. I have to speak. In a seminar, we have that advantage. We can hear the audience also. Anyway, what is the nature of insurance claim that is received? First of all, is it an income taxable under Income Tax Act? Of course, yes. Is it forming part of our turnover under the books of accounts as per the GAAP, as per the accounting standards that we follow? Well, partly yes and partly no. We may call it as we have realized the value of the goods lost, or that can also be considered as a way to dispose the stock and we have earned the money. So it can also be considered as earning. Anyway, I'm not going into the intricacies of accounting because that will open up another this one. Now, will it form part of my supply? Will it form part of my outward supply? In other words, can I say that I disposed of my goods? I have lost my goods. Let us say there is a fire, or goods are lost during transit, accident or whatever. Can we fit it into the definition of deemed supply? That is my first question. So Schedule 1 goes like this. Permanent transfer or disposal of business asset where input tax credit has been availed. So if we take any input tax credit and if we dispose of such business assets need not be fixed assets. Business asset means anything that is helpful to a business. It could even be a current asset or stock in trade. So any business asset, if it is transferred or disposed, even without consideration, that will form part of deemed supply. Okay. So under this head, can we include the insurance claim? Well, we have to understand the nature of the supply here. What about insurance claim? What happens is, if I say insurance claim is a supply, hypothetically, then I have to say that I have supplied the goods. If I have supplied the goods, to whom I have supplied? Obviously, I haven't supplied the goods to the insurer. Obviously not. Neither I can say that I have disposed of my good, because any disposal is not covered here. Even disposal is an active verb. Transfer or disposal is an active verb. That means it has to happen by me. I have to transfer or I have to dispose. In insurance, I am neither disposing nor transferring. They were lost or destroyed. Okay, so it will not fall under these active words. That is point number 1. And point number 2 is, whatever the claim that I am receiving, is it a consideration that I am receiving back, or is it a supply in which I am supplying the service? Okay, so if I have to say insurance claim money received is a supply. Insurance claim నాకు వస్తే నేను అది సప్లై అనాలనుకోండి, అంటే నేను గూడ్స్ ని సప్లై చేసినట్టు అవుతున్నాను. నేను గూడ్స్ ని సప్లై చేయలే. గూడ్స్ ని సప్లై చేయకపోతే పోనీ ఏమైనా సర్వీస్ ని సప్లై చేశానా? సర్వీస్ ని ఏమైనా సప్లై చేశానా అంటే, ఇన్సూరెన్స్ వాడికి ఒక ఆబ్లిగేషన్ ఉంది, నాకు ఏదైనా నష్టం వస్తే భర్తీ చేయాలి అనే ఒక ఆబ్లిగేషన్. నేను ఆ నష్టాన్ని భర్తీ చేయటం అనే ఆబ్లిగేషన్ ని ఇన్సూరెన్స్ కంపెనీ వాడికి అందులోంచి వాడిని బయట వేస్తున్నానా? That means, am I forbearing, or am I tolerating, or am I relieving the insurance company of his obligation, and in a way that is a service? Well, the answer is, we have to understand the Contract Act properly. So under the Contract Act, what is the promise and what is the consideration for that? In the insurance contract, the promise is by the insurer, and what he is promising is, for any loss, he will make good the loss. Okay, so he is a service provider and he is providing the service of a promise, and the promise is in the nature of an indemnity, making good the loss. So atanu tana promise ni neraverchukunnadu. So ఆ promise ki I have paid certain consideration, that is insurance premium. See, if I pay 10 rupees and get a good, there is only one supply. I am paying 10 rupees and I am getting goods. So goods are not another supply. It is only one supply. The goods are being supplied, the goods are getting supplied, and I am paying my money for that. So similarly, insurance premium law, the insurer is providing the service. The insurer is providing the service of insuring me, and I am paying the premium. Okay. Now, in the eventuality of a loss, the insurance company is making good the loss, which is nothing but the performance of the contract. So there is no different contract. Therefore, insurance claim monies will not form part of my supply. Neither will they be covered under Schedule 1 as a deemed supply. However, one important point to make here is they will get caught under section 17(5) because the words used are goods lost, stolen, destroyed. They will form part of loss. In other words, if any goods are lost and I am getting my insurance company, the only obligation I am under is I have to reverse the ITC. అంతే తప్ప నేను ఐటీసీని రివర్స్ చేసుకుంటే చాలు, నేను రివర్స్ చేసుకొని తీరాలి. రివర్స్ చేసుకుంటే ఒక రకం చేసుకో, రివర్సింగ్ అండ్ ఐటీసీ ఇస్ నాట్ అన్ ఆప్షన్. ఇట్ ఈస్ మ్యాండేటరీ అండర్ 17(5) because Schedule 1 కాస్త కండిషనల్ గా కనబడుతుంది, వేర్ ఇన్పుట్ ట్యాక్స్ క్రెడిట్. సో బికాస్ ద వర్డింగ్ ఈజ్ a little conditional, we can't presume that way. So this way what happens is filling up of 9 వచ్చిన ఫార్మ్స్ అవి ఎట్లా ఫిల్ చేస్తాం, that is another part of the story. We have to be very, very strong with the concepts of supply. Let me take another this one. Many companies, many units receive subsidies. Capital subsidy is there, interest subsidy is there, rebates are there. All of these are received from governments. Now, can we call them as my revenue? If you go to AS 12 accounting standards or even under Income Tax Act, any revenue subsidy is a taxable item. So just because there is a tax under Income Tax Act, we can't say that it is a turnover or it is a turnover under the GST. We have to again see the definition of supply. The two essential conditions of supply definition are: 1, consideration; 2, in the course or furtherance of business. Now, is it a consideration? Why the government is giving me the subsidy? What is that I have done to the government? Consideration antene quid pro quo, something in return. So in return of what the government is paying the subsidy? First of all, let us see the definition of consideration. Any payment made or to be made, whether in money or otherwise, in response to, in respect of, or for the inducement of. So for the inducement of. So government is inducing me to set up an unit at a backward area or to set up an unit in a particular way. So therefore, a subsidy is an inducement, is an incentivization of somebody to do something which he is otherwise unwilling. మామూలుగా చేయని పనిని చేయడం కోసమే గవర్నమెంట్ సబ్సిడీ ఇస్తుంది. సో సబ్సిడీ అనేది ఖచ్చితంగా ఇన్ ద కోర్స్ ఆఫ్ బిజినెస్, ఆ పాయింట్ ఆలోచించక్కర్లేదు. బట్ కన్సిడరేషనా అంటే ఇంతవరకు చూస్తే కన్సిడరేషనే. హవెవర్ దెర్ ఇస్ అన్ ఎక్స్క్లూజన్, బట్ షల్ నాట్ ఇన్క్లూడ్ ఎనీ సబ్సిడీ గివెన్ బై సెంట్రల్ గవర్నమెంట్ ఆర్ స్టేట్ గవర్నమెంట్. సో just because of this saving clause, it will not form part of consideration. If consideration fails, supply fails. If supply fails, turnover has failed. Therefore, it will not form part of aggregate turnover. Therefore, it will not form part of whatever the turnover that we have to disclose in GSTR 9. So therefore, you have to be, the basics shall be very, very strong. And they go a long way in implementation of this 9 and 9C. So except now the interesting point is, what if we receive a subsidy from other agencies which are not technically central government or state government? Now, if there is a nodal agency which is managing a subsidy scheme, there are other corporates. Those corporates, we cannot consider them as equal to government. Now, if we receive a subsidy from them, well, that is a gray area. Okay, we have to see, because central government and state government are also defined in GST Act. They were defined for the purpose of administration of the Act. But even general sense lo తీసుకున్నా కూడా మనకి సబ్సిడీ వేరే కార్పొరేట్ నుంచి వస్తే అది కలుస్తుందా ఇందులో? This is one kind of subsidy. There is another kind of subsidy under section 15(2). That is price intervention subsidy, that I will consider it a little later. Now, Another interesting one. What about gains, lotteries, winning, best presented accounts? I have received a gift check from a national board. Is it my income? Well, anything is income under other sources. Okay, so whether they form part of my supply and consequently the turnover. Okay, so for this, I have given one grid here, which makes us the step-by-step evaluation of supply. So this is it. This is a very categorical and very important one. First of all, manaki turnover lo kalavali ante మనం ఏ స్టెప్ బై స్టెప్ గా మనం కన్సిడర్ చేయాలి. ద స్టెప్స్ దట్ వీ హ్యావ్ టు కన్సిడర్, ఫస్ట్ ఆఫ్ ఆల్ ద సబ్జెక్ట్ మ్యాటర్. దేర్ షల్ బి గూడ్స్ ఆర్ సర్వీస్. సో దేర్ ఫోర్ ఇఫ్ ఇట్ ఈస్ neither a good nor a supply, by definition, see, money is neither a good nor a service by definition. Securities, they never form part of service, they never form part of good, so they are neither good nor service by definition of goods and services. And again, we have got one schedule that is not see, the schedule 3 is very strangely worded. It is not saying they are not deemed as supply. It is saying they are deemed neither are goods nor as supply nor as service. So if it is neither a good nor a service, there is no subject matter. If there is no subject matter, the question of supply doesn't arise. So if there is no good or a service, the question of supply doesn't arise. So therefore, if there is no good or nor a service, then it will definitely fail at aggregate turnover, and also at, much less to say about taxable turnover, it will anyway fail. Then the second one is there shall be supply. So supply anedi supply definition dwara vastundi. Supply avali ante there shall be consideration and it should be in the course or furtherance of business. So ee rendu conditions satisfy nappudu there will be supply. If there is a supply, if there is no supply, again it will not form part of aggregate turnover. Once it crosses this, once we prove that there are goods and there is a supply, then it is turnover. Whether it is falling under levy or it is not falling under levy, whether it is taxable as per the tariff or whether it is not taxable as per the tariff, it doesn't make any difference. So whether leviable or not, whether taxable or not, levy is different from tax. Leviable kada, taxable kada, it doesn't make any difference, and then it automatically forms part of aggregate turnover, and that aggregate turnover we have to consider for the purpose of calculation of whether we fall under 9(c) or not ane dantlo kuda. Next important dimension of turnover, I have got some more examples. So whether transactions mentioned in schedule 3, let us say there is sale of land. ఒక చిన్న బిజినెస్ ఎంటిటీ ఒక 2 కోట్లకి ల్యాండ్ అమ్మింది. సో 9(c) అప్లై అవుతుందా అవ్వదా? There is one transaction, a bigger one, sale of land. Otherwise their turnover is very little, let us say a few lakhs. Now can we consider the sale of land as turnover under GST? If it is taxable, it is included. If it is exempt also, it is included. So whether GST is there or not, whether I have to pay GST or not, is an irrelevant question. The only relevant question is whether it will meet the definition of supply or not. Well, sale of land is covered under schedule 3. Schedule 3 means which are deemed neither as goods nor as services. If it is neither a good nor a service, there is no question of supply. So the same logic is applicable to all the items under schedule 3. Recently, high C sales from bonded warehouse, all of these are also included under schedule 3. So వీటన్నిటిని కూడా మనం can we consider it as part of supply? The answer is no, because it is not part of supply, it cannot form part of the turnover. Next and the most important part, చాలా మంది డిస్ట్రిబ్యూటర్స్ ని చాలా మందిని ఇబ్బంది పెట్టే ప్రశ్న ఏంటంటే the secondary discounts are incentives. ఒక టార్గెట్ అచీవ్ చేస్తే the distributor will be given certain incentive. Okay, normally these incentives will be given in the form of a credit note. That means the company, the manufacturing company, has to get some monies from the distributor anyway. So it will give a credit. And it is
sorry to interrupt you. Someone is asking to explain the supply table once again, sir. Can you please go through that table once again so that they will have a clear understanding?
Sure. And the time is nearing 11:30. Can I extend a little bit, sir?
Sir, please go on until the scheduled time, then we will take a call.
Okay. Yeah. So this is a basic structure of levy. First thing we have to check is the subject matter. The subject matter of supply is either goods or service. Nothing else is possible. There is nothing other than goods or services, because anything other than goods will anyway fall under the head service. Okay. So the first criteria that has to be satisfied is there shall be some subject matter. It should be either goods or service. It doesn't matter. And then when there are goods or services, the next question we have to ensure is whether it is a supply or not, as per the definitions of supply, section 7, read with schedule 1, 2, and 3. Okay. So there are certain items. The basic definition of supply is it has to be for consideration and in the course or furtherance of business. If these two ingredients are satisfied, then the supply definition is met. However, schedule 1 says even if without consideration, some things are to be considered as supply. That is another wildcard entry into the definition of supply, even atla sare. So the next check we have to do is supply. If both are there, if supply is there, that means goods, section 2 lo goods, services we have ensured, and then the definition of supply we have ensured, then we are going to levy. Levy is by section 9. So where the levy is except on certain goods, that is alcohol for human consumption and the 5 petrol products. On this there is no levy. Except these commodities, on every other good or service there is a levy. Okay. And then the next one is, even if there is a levy, there is no guarantee that there is a tax, because there could be some notification which exempts the tax. Okay. So exempting means already 3 are satisfied. There are goods, there is a supply, there is a levy, and within the levy, the exemption. Exemption means not the exemption as per the definition. Exemption in the sense of rate of tax I am talking about. Exempt under the tariff I am talking about. So either under section 11.1 or 11.2, government makes you a notification declaring the rate of tax as nil or exempting the goods or services from the definition. Now, the point I want to drive home from this table is that once the goods and services are there and the definition of supply is met, then irrespective of the levy, irrespective of the tariff, irrespective of whether we have to pay the tax or not, they will form part of aggregate turnover. That is the point. So only 2 conditions are required to establish turnover. There shall be goods or service, there shall be supply. Levy is irrelevant, taxability, exact tax rate is also irrelevant. That is the point. Hope it is clear, sir.
Yes, sir. It's more clear now. So you can proceed. You can proceed. Yeah. Please proceed.
Sir, I have a few questions here. There are no additional fields given in GSTR 9. We will go through the form. There is an additional field, sir. No supply is also included. No non-GST supplies. Exempt, nil rated, no GST, and then no supply. So under that columns, we will club all of these where there are no taxes, and we will put there. We will see them when we go through the form. And then land is an immovable property, definitely. And sale of land is falling under schedule 3.
Sir, one more question which was asked prior to this, where we know that GSTR 9 once filed is final and no revision is possible. It may so happen that an SSC might have not included some amounts or something like that, or GSTR 9 is wrongfully filed. Now, what is the recourse available to such dealer in the current situation or under the current law?
The law as of now is not providing for any recourse as such, because revision of 9 and 9C is not permitted. Okay. Anyway, 9 and 9 is a declaration from the SSC. If the declaration goes wrong, what happens is we can write a letter to the department saying that it has gone wrong like this. In what way it will help is we can establish that it is not a willful mistake. Okay. Even if some 73, 74 notices are initiated later, it will help us to establish that it is only a wrong item. Okay.
No, what what you say, by what you have said, I have got an idea. Let us say some 1 lakh is not included in 9, by mistake it has been already been filed. And assuming that 9C is also filed, now can, after identifying by me, what I have done is I have discharged the liability and also filed the DRC 3. Will it suffice? Will it suffice? Then how can it be made good? Can it be made good?
Definitely yes.
So
Because
even if 9 is wrongfully filed, if you have discharged your liability by filing the DRC 3 and paying the tax, I don't think you, along with interest, that's fine. I don't think the SSC will be subjected to hardships later.
Definitely yes. Definitely yes. Because
Okay, sir.
there are only 3 consequences of any mistake. One, interest. Second one, interest late fee penalty, that category of IPL, interest late fee penalty, what we have to pay in addition to the interest. That's it. So penalty is for committing some wrong. Okay. Here, if it is made good on our own, the question of penalty doesn't arise, because even section 73 provides for such a case that if any tax is paid voluntarily even before initiating of the notice, no penalty can be levied and the proceedings will be deemed to have been stopped. So that immunity is there. The only thing is, if that very setting of missing 9 and then making good at a later point of time, if that itself is done within motive, then there could be some hardship, but that is very remote possibility. For a general normal clerical mistake, for the 9 and 9C that were already filed, if there is no tax implication, then there will not be any hardships, then there will not be any other consequences. But Act is not providing any recourse in the form of filing a revised return. Okay, that we have to live with because the Act is so designed.
Sir,
Okay.
one more thing.
If the gravity of the mistake is huge, it is also recommended to intimate so that it will also stand as an evidence for a later date.
Sir, let us suppose a bank interest on fixed deposit has not been disclosed, which is exempt by the way and not chargeable to GST, is not disclosed either in 9 or it has also been avoided in 9C. Later, the department has found out this. What might be the, or what would be the consequences of such omission? Can you please throw some light on that?
As simple as what we have discussed now, sir. If there is no tax implication, there is no interest implication. So that way, the tax and interest implications are not there. And the second one is penalty. Penalty, if it is made good after the department had found out, then there is a chance of a penalty. If that was made good on our own voluntarily, there cannot be any case of a penalty. There could be a case of a general penalty. Asal mana example, it is an exempt income. Fixed deposit with interest okati miss ayyamu alantivi cheptunnaru. So in which case there could hardly be a case of penalty. Okay. So if in any what is the central theme of GSTR 9 on a slide I have covered that we will take care there. The central theme of 9 is to make a self-declaration. If any omissions are there, there is a chance to declare that once again. It is not a form to rectify. Okay. Anyway, I will cover it in detail in that slide, sir. Okay. Next. What about realignment of shares in a joint venture or resulting gain in equity or cash flows? It may so happen that one corporate has invested in a joint venture. Okay. And then there is some realignment of these shares between the joint venture partners. So what happens is one who is quitting may get some money. Now, can we call it as a supply? Because there is an income. Is it a good? It is not a good. If it is not a good, it is a service. Now the point is it a service taxable or not? What is happening is there is a realignment of shares in the joint venture. Okay, that means one partner share is coming down and another partner share is going up. The exiting partner is going to get some money. Now, is it an income? Well, definitely yes. It will fall under PGBP, profits and gains of business or profession, and is taxable. But will it form part of supply? That is a question. Okay. Now here that interest, that equity interest is evidenced in the form of a share or a scrip or some other document and that document or script is not an actionable claim which will fall under the head of goods. Therefore, it is in the nature of security, and because it is in the nature of security, it is failing at the definition of goods or service. Okay, so any interest in the partnership represented by a stake or a share or an equity in joint venture or some other special purpose vehicle, I am having certain stakes, అలాంటివి ఏవైనా రీడిఫైన్ అవుతూ ఉంటే అది ఏమవుతుందని అంటే అది కేవలం a transaction in money అవుతుంది. Because a transaction in money, it will not form part of turnover. Now, accounting standards ప్రకారం మనం రకరకాల కార్పొరేషన్స్ కానివ్వండి, ఈవెన్ పార్ట్నర్షిప్ ఫర్మ్స్, వాట్ ఎవర్, ద క్యారింగ్ వాల్యూస్ we will revalue, like debtor we will revalue, liabilities we will revalue. So on this revaluation, if there is some gain, can we consider it as a supply? So I'm redefining my question. If it is supply, then automatically it will form part of turnover. So the point is, will it form part of supply or not? Okay. Here also we have to see the essential ingredient of supply is consideration. Consideration is different from income. Anything that we earn may be a profit, but it need not be a consideration, because a consideration shall happen as something in return. So it is neither in respect of, or in inducement of, or in relation to something. It is only a financial gain, and therefore it is a financial transaction. Therefore there is no consideration in this. There is a gain. Gain is different from consideration. So this is a very subtle legal point we have to take care. Almost all the accounting adjustments will fall under this head. Though they are gains, they are not profits. See, there is a slight difference between profit and a gain. Okay, profit is what is earned, gain is what we got. Okay, so there is some sort of effort behind getting a profit. There is no windfall profit, there is windfall gain all the time. So therefore some effort has to be there. And if in relation to, I'm not talking about the effort, even without effort also, if I'm getting in relation to or inducement of or in respect of something, then only it can be consideration. Just because I am revaluing my debtors or my carrying value of some investments, it cannot be considered as a consideration for something. Therefore, even the common points, they will form part of the right hand side of the profit and loss account, but they will not form part of supply. Next, sale of a business as a going concern. Sale of a business undertaking as it is, as such, in a slump sale. Okay, can we consider it as supply? Okay, this was more close to realignment of shares. But realignment of shares is talking about the stake represented by a security. Here, the stake is in the form of the physicality of the asset itself. So because it is in the nature of the physicality of the asset, it is taxable. But of course, it is exempt under a different one. Notification 12 exempts this. So it is an exempt supply. Nonetheless, it forms part of turnover. That is the first point. So if I sell off, hive off any of the business undertakings as a going concern, as a slump sale, then it is forming part of my supply. I have to show it under GSTR 9 as well as in GSTR 9C. Even if by accounting standards I am not doing it and I am doing it on a separate method, even then for the purpose of GST, it forms part of the turnover first. Now, another interesting dimension of turnover is from the perspective of valuation. Okay, so we have already seen turnover does not mean turnover as per books of accounts. Turnover means turnover as per the provisions of GST. Turnover means turnover as per the provisions of GST. So therefore, we have to apply the principles of valuation here, and we have to calculate the turnover that way. I'll take a classic example. Rebate in a value. Let us say I have sold a building under construction, an apartment under construction. We all know when land value is forming part of the consideration, then notification 11 provides for a rebate. It deems the value as 2/3 and 1/3 is deemed as value of land and is rebated. Now, what is my turnover? Let us say I have sold a flat for 90 lakhs. the sale consideration is 90 lakhs. I have sold 3 such flats. So 390 is 270 is my turnover as per books of accounts. But what is turnover as per GST? Shall I have to consider it before rebate or after rebate? Is the question. So we have already seen the definition of turnover means value of supply. So we have to go by the legal definition of value. And by legal definition of value, what notification 11 says is the value itself is considered as 2/3 and 1/3 is abated towards or in respect of land. Therefore, only 60 lakhs is my value. Though consideration is 90, though the transaction value is 90, my taxable value is only 60. So my total turnover is 360 is 18. I am not falling under the threshold of 9C. Okay, so we can't go by the face value of the transaction also, and there are deemed values. Let us say we have a client who is a tour operator or a ticketing agent. Okay, so GST has got a deeming provision for value in respect of that. In case of domestic flight, certain thing. In case of international flight, certain thing. So what we have to consider as turnover? Maybe my books of accounts are prepared in such a way that whole of my inflow is shown as turnover and whole of my outflow is shown as expenditure, and only I am left with the commission part of that or so. But neither the commission nor the whole value of the monies that the travel ticketing agent is earning will be considered as turnover, because section 15 read with rules are clearly mandating and deeming certain percentage of the ticket to be the value. So we have to consider that only. Okay. And what about the monies that are received as an agent but are not qualifying the conditions of pure agency? Now it may happen like this. We may receive some money as an agent. Okay, so what we say is it is not my revenue. I am only getting it as an agent, and I am in turn depositing or disposing of the money as an agent. Therefore, it doesn't form part of my turnover as per books of accounts. However, for the purpose of GST, Rule 33 has prescribed certain conditions as eligibility criteria for pure agency. Now, let us say I fail in that. What happens is, though those revenues are not recorded as revenue in the books of accounts, still they will form part of turnover, because the pure agency remission, what is there in Rule 33, has failed. Because it has failed, it will form part of my value. Because it has formed part of my value, it will form part of my turnover. So therefore, we have to be very careful. The turnover, we cannot give a general interpretation to that. So turnover ki oka special meaning unnadi. GSTR provisions prakaram recalculate cheskunna tarvata matrame ఏ ప్రొవిజన్ అయినా మనం అప్లై చేయాలి. Now, the major clash between turnover and accounting practices. So accounting practices, generally accepted accounting principles gap prakaram avi accounting standards avvachu, Indias avvachu, A gap anna avvachu or US gap avvachu, whatever. So every accounts are drawn in a certain framework and we will follow certain accounting principles. So by virtue of that accounting principles, it may not be turnover. Okay. However, for the purpose of GST, it may be turnover. Take, for example, principles of recognition, whether it is under AS 9 or Ind AS 115, whatever it is, there are certain conditions. There shall be measurability, collectability, passing of risks and rewards, discharge of the obligations that I am obliged to. If I am not doing all of these things, accounting standards will not permit us to recognize it as revenue in my books of accounts. Now, shall I have to consider it as turnover under GST? Shall I have to pay tax or not? It is again by time of supply. Shall I have to still show it as a turnover? Definitely yes, because turnover means turnover as per GST. One simple thumb rule. So there are certain concepts. Concept of accrual. By virtue of accrual, we may record some incomes as revenue in the books of accounts. Like unexpired bill discount, we will not record because that has not yet accrued. Similarly, on FDs, we may receive certain income. So under the principles of accrual, we may not show it as income under the books of accounts. But still, if the time of supply is triggered, automatically it will form part of turnover. Similarly, I may be following percentage completion method. There is no percentage completion method under GST. Okay, GST goes by different fundamentals. So have you received any goods? Have you received any money? have you raised the invoice, have you rendered the service. It goes by that logic. So that way. And the next point of difference could be exchange conversions. Exchange conversions, I may convert it at a particular rate of exchange as prescribed by the accounting standards. More particularly when there is a hedge accounting, when there is a cash flow hedge or some other hedge, what happens is I will convert it at a certain rate. But then GST valuation rules has prescribed the rate of exchange at which we have to convert. We have to adopt the fortnightly rate issued by customs, and the exchange conversion can happen only at that rate. Okay, so this could also be a potential reason for difference between what is turnover as per GAAP and what is turnover as per GST. Okay, so under the hedge accounting, this is it. And then accounting of financial leases or inherent interest that is there in the scheme. We all know by AS 19, what happens is, if there is a finance lease, we segregate the revenue into two parts, one towards the lease part and the second one towards the interest part. So the interest part, we used to call it as a finance charge because it is in the nature of interest. But GST is not having any such concepts of bifurcating the consideration between the normal and for the time value. Instead, it does the opposite. What section 15 says is, even the interest income that you are earning from a debtor, you have sold goods and the debtor has failed to pay within time and we are collecting interest, even that interest we have to calculate and we have to club it in the turnover. Therefore, it runs opposite to our accounting standards logic. In the accounting standards, we are splitting the turnover into two, one towards the lease charge and the other towards the finance charge, whereas GST is clubbing the finance charge and it was also considering the same to be part of the turnover. Okay, therefore, these are the dimensional differences. Mostly, these items are not being discussed even among the professional community. Even little thought, or maybe still the time has not come to that. Still, the profession is still grappling with the forms, how to fill the form, which cell has to be filled with what and all. So those kind of cases, anyway, we will take. Okay, and even from the legal perspective, what section 44 says is, every registered person shall furnish. Now, what happens if I am a registered person during a year? Let us say during financial year 18-19, I am a registered person. But at the end of the financial year, that is by March 19, I surrendered my registration. I have even filed my final return also. Shall I have to file 9 and 9C? The section is very clear and very bold and very not clear. The section is very, even not very specific. It says every registered person. Registered person at what point of time? At the beginning of the year or at the end of the year or any part during the year? Okay. So there is no guidance or there is no clarity from the section. The press releases has clarified that if he is in the status of registered entity, if he is a registered person at any point of time during the year, then he has to file his 9 and 9C. So therefore, even if I surrender my registration at the end of the year, I am not holding the registration, still I am obliged to file my 9 and 9C. 9C, of course, if the turnover is more than 2 crore. Then I have registered midway. I am not a registered person from the beginning of the financial year. I have taken my registration halfway through. Then shall I have to report my turnovers for relating to the period prior to my obtaining registration? The answer is obvious. Once he is registered, then he is registered person, and the whole of the turnover, even relating to the period prior to obtaining the turnover, shall have to be reported. Okay, there are certain exclusions for the year 17-18 because the GST Act has come into play from 1st July, but that is not applicable for the next years. Even in 17-18, the period from the date of GST implementation to registration, that has to be reported. Now, one interesting question is, all these sections are saying every registered person shall fail. Now, what happens if I am liable to register, but I fail to get registered? So, because I have not taken registration, am I exempted from 9 and 9C? Well, there is a famous quote, one cannot take advantage of his own mistake. Okay, that is a legal principle. So therefore, the point is, in the first place, I have failed to register myself. Okay, and because I am not in the status of registration, can I take the advantage of not being required to file these things? Well, going by the verbatim of the section, filing of 9 and 9C are required only when he is a registered entity. If he is not a registered entity throughout 1819, then he is not required to file any return, including 9 and 9C. However, the penal action will be there. The penalty, whatever is leviable for non-disclosure and all, will be there. So going by literal interpretation, if there is no registration, no question of filing the returns also. Even the system will not permit. Now, whether 9C...
Prasad garu, sir, 12 o'clock అయింది కాబట్టి కెన్ వి టేక్ సమ్ క్వశ్చన్స్ ఆర్ ఎనీ ఒక 5-10 మినిట్స్ లో అయిపోతుందా లేకపోతే ఎలా ఉంటుంది వాళ్ళ టాపిక్?
We will conclude it in 10 minutes.
10 minutes, sir? అంటే ఏం లేదు, కాకపోతే వాళ్ళు పోస్ట్పోన్ చేసుకుంటానంటే కనుక వాళ్ళ కొన్ని క్వశ్చన్స్ వచ్చినాయి. కెన్ వి టేక్ అప్ దట్ క్వశ్చన్స్ నౌ?
Yeah, just then I will conclude it in 5 minutes.
Okay, right. Okay. Go ahead.
So, whether 9C is an annexure to 9 or whether 9C is to be viewed as a separate requirement, we have already discussed it. 9C is an integral part of that. So what is a return we have seen? Yeah. And from the statutory backdrop, I want to make this is a very, very important one, which I want to bring to the notice of the audience. There are 5 different due dates mentioned in the GST Act, all pertaining to the filing of information and returns. Okay, so 16(4) is talking about the due date for claiming ITC in respect of a financial year. 34 talks about issue of a credit note and corrections of GSTR 1, that is in section 37, and corrections in GSTR 2, that is in section 38. Corrections in GSTR 3 or 3B that are in GSTR, that is in section 39. Now, for all these 5 actions, the due date prescribed is the same. That is the date by which the monthly return of September is due or the annual return, whichever is earlier. So all of these are not famous. Only the section 16(4) is very famous because it has an implication of ITC and we will lose our ITC. But we have to be very careful because many people have a tendency to pay the taxes payable through 3B. You have to be very careful. If it is pertaining to 1819, we cannot rectify the 3B post the September monthly return due date is over. That is by October 20th, we are not supposed to, after October 20th, we are not supposed to touch 3B if it pertains to the financial year 1819. In other words, in 1819, some turnover is missed out. I haven't rectified it till September 2019. Now, can I rectify this and file it in 3B? The answer is no. Because 3B itself is having a separate due date and that is also September. So after that, if I have to rectify, I have to pay by DRC 3, pay voluntary challan, but I cannot show it under 3B. It has to stand out. It has to separately be disclosed. Of course, it has to be reported in GSTR 9. So similarly, for the financial year 17-18, we know that the last date of September has been extended till March. But if you see the removal of difficulty order, that is by 2/2018, the removal of difficulty order is not extending all the 5 due dates. We have to take very important care. Of course, 17-18 is over. There is no point in discussing it now. But if you see the removal of difficulty order, only section 16(4), that is the permissibility of ITC is given and the corrections in 1 is given. Okay, so the supplier, the outward supply, one who is making outward supply can rectify in 1 and the recipient can take ITC, but the other rectifications, the issue of credit note is not possible and the correction, showing those corrections in 3B are also not possible. So many people have taken financial year 17-18 rectifications that were made in 3B also till March 2019, which is not correct. Okay, anyway, these provisions are there in the Act and therefore they are applicable not only for 17-18, they are applicable for every financial year. We have to be watchful of all the 5 due dates as an individual requirements. Okay, when the due dates are extended, that is there. Now the central part of central theme of 9 that I will anyway cover while taking up the case study. Okay, I have opened this window. In fact, it was confusing. Half of the people were saying to continue in English and half of the people were continuing in Telugu. But anyway, the way the topic is pitched in, I have not taken up the issues of filling up of the form, or I have taken the statutory background, and therefore it is more relevant to the chartered accountant community. Therefore, I intentionally kept it in English. Okay, if it is of any inconvenience to anybody, I'm sorry for that. But tomorrow case study, anyway, there is a case study to discuss. We can mix up the languages more. The central theme of 9 and 9C, anyway, I will take it up by discussing in the advanced case studies. Okay, it will be truly, the case studies will be truly to that. One more point I have seen the sessions convened by Vijayawada branch. All the basic provisions were thoroughly dealt in that series of sessions that were taken. So therefore, I thought these supply and the legal backdrop of issues which are more relevant, it is the time to discuss those things. And I thank for the opportunity. I take any questions as the chairman decides. Yes, sir. Sir, can you please read out, because maybe I have to scroll back a lot.
Sir, the questions will be flashed on the screen.
Okay.
Siva Prasad, sir.
Sure.
If you can watch your screen, one question is, this is
What document, sir? Siva Prasad, sir.
Yeah. I am seeing. This is by.
What document minimize చేసేయండి.
Yeah.
మీ వర్డ్ డాక్యుమెంట్ మెయిన్ దాంట్లోనే మినిమైజ్ చేసేయండి సార్, యూట్యూబ్ లో కాదు.
Okay.
Ravikishore garu, please take.
Yes, sure. He's from Eluru. He has a question to you, which is flashing on your screen right now.
Yes,
you can go through that and answer, please.
Yeah. I know him. Please throw some light on stock in transit. If invoice is raised in March and stock is received in April, the same does not have a resolution, as there will be positive difference in table 8. So because of table 8, I understood that this is with respect to ITC, not with respect to the outward sale. So far we are talking about the turnover from the supplier point of view. Anyway, first point is the eligibility of ITC is not limited to the financial year. Anyway, it extends till September month, or there is a grace of 6 months of time. So therefore, our input is not at stake because of that end of the year adjustment. So if the invoice is raised in the month of March, and the stock is received in the month of April, now the real catch is, one of the substantive requirements to claim ITC under section 16(2) is receipt of goods. So here the very same receipt of goods is happening in the month of April. So my eligibility to take ITC itself has come in April. Okay. Now it is not a problem. Table 8 is not going to decide the eligibility or the lapsing of the ITC or anyway like that. That adjustments can be reflected in table 12 of GSTR 9C, and we can communicate it that is an eligible ITC and we have taken. Eligibility is not a problem. What I believe from the question is, in which financial year we have to take? We have to take in the later financial year, that is in the month of April, but not in the month of March.
So the question relates to the difference between 9A and 9B.
See, in case of 9A, it is for composition dealer. Most of the tables of 9 are anyway not applicable to composition dealer, because composition dealer ki tax payment annadi ledu. Composition dealer annevadu B2B sale chesina, B2C sale chesina, avtala valla daggara nunchi tax collect cheyatam annadi ledu, tax kattatam annadi ledu. So therefore, most of 9 is not relevant for 9A. Therefore, it was altered to that extent. Similarly for 9B, ikkada entante it is a question of the context. So e-commerce operator TCS వాడికి ఏదైతే అప్లై అవుతుందో, e-commerce operator కి ఏవైతే అప్లై అవుతుందో వాళ్ళ వరకు అక్కడ వరకు మాత్రమే it was tailor made. So it is like to the context. Ante, that is a major difference.
Can we go to the next question, please?
Yeah.
Can the next question be flashed?
Sorry, I missed it.
Yeah, no issue, sir. We'll flash it.
In services, taxpayer issued March 19 to May 19 rent on immovable property in June 2019 in a single invoice on the request of the recipient. Is it correct or not? See, March to May, we are issuing in the month of June. So we are not following the principles of time of supply as given under section 13. So what is the impact is, whenever you give the invoice, or the way when we give our invoice is not going to alter the time of supply. First point. Therefore, our taxability has already started at the time of supply. Therefore, our interest liability is there. Okay. Now, how to present this in the form? Now, in this question, March is in the financial year 18-19, and April and May are in the financial year 19-20. So we have issued an invoice in the month of June. So this will be reported as turnover in GSTR 9 for the financial year 19-20. Okay. However, when we make a declaration in 9, we have to show March turnover as turnover. So it will result in unreconciled difference both for 18-19 as well as for 19-20. We have to make a suitable disclosure in 9C. So there it will, we say that this was reported and paid in the next year. Okay. Now, can we show it in part 5 of 18-19 itself? The answer is no. Okay, because we are not raising the invoice as invoice of 18-19. Rather, we are raising the invoice as 19-20 itself. Whether the treatment is correct or not is a different issue. The treatment is wrong. But then, having made such an invoice, now the point is how to disclose. How to disclose is 18-19, there will be unreconciled difference. We say that it was paid in the next year, and we will only pay interest if it was unpaid. Hope that answers the question.
The next question is with regard to the difference in turnover as per Income Tax Act and difference in turnover as per GST.
Okay.
As per Income Tax, the turnover is 1.85 crores, and as per GST, the turnover amounted to 2.45 crores. Maybe because of this deemed supply concept, something like that.
Exactly. That is what we discussing.
9C is to be filed.
Exactly, yes. The turnover as per Income Tax Act, the turnover is not an universal term. The meaning of the turnover changes from every context in which we use that. The turnover under Income Tax Act and turnover under GST are altogether different subjects. That is what our total session is all about. So, if the turnover as per GST is exceeding 2 crores, we are required to file 9C. We will fall under that obligation. Definitely, yes.
We have a supplement question wherein it states that under the Income Tax Act, the books were not audited. Now, does it means that for 9C you have to have a separate audit?
Yes, we have to have a separate audit. 35(5) says we have to get our books of accounts audited. In case they were already audited by any reason, then fine. Otherwise, we have to have another audit for the purpose of compliance of 35(5) and 44.
Can we move on to the next question? That is another question with regard to there are having 2 GSTN registrations in one state. So, do you need to file 9C separately? Means
Exactly.
one 9C for one registration.
Yes. The requirement is per registration, because the opening phrases of all the sections are every registered person. Every registered person means every person having a different registration. So all the requirements are per registration, not per entity. Therefore, if you have 2 registrations, you have to file 2 9Cs. And for those 2 9Cs, there is no requirement of 2 crore individually. Once the 2 crore turnover is crossed, every single entity has to file. Even if it is a nil return, you have to have a 9C also. Even if it is a nil turnover, you have to file a 9C also.
Maybe
So,
GSR want to add something. I think his mic is muted, I think.
Okay.
GSR garu, I think mic is muted.
Yeah, tell me, sir.
You wanted to say something or add something?
No, sir.
So shall we continue with the questions, or should we continue tomorrow so that because we have
the questions, sir?
Sorry, I didn't get you.
Yeah, another 10 minutes we'll continue with the questions. We'll finish up today's questions and we'll go to the next day freshly.
Okay.
Yes, fine.
So
So we'll
cancellation
take up
GST. completed but not filed GSTR 10. So the final return is not filed. Whether cancellation process complete. The cancellation process is completed. In a way, you cannot issue any outward supplies. You cannot claim any input tax because the surrendering of registration is a separate event and filing of GSTR 10 is a separate event. However, non-compliance GSTR 10 వేయని కారణంగా ఆ 10 కి సంబంధించిన లేట్ ఫీజ్ ఏదైతే ఉందో అది కంటిన్యూ అవుతూనే ఉంటుంది. అండ్ GSTR 10 వేసినా వేయకపోయినా రిజిస్ట్రేషన్ అంటూ ఉంటే ఒక పార్ట్ ఆఫ్ ద పీరియడ్ కి we have to file our GSTR 9 and if turnover is more 9C also. సో మీ రిజిస్ట్రేషన్ కంప్లీట్, క్యాన్సిలేషన్ కంప్లీట్ అయినట్టు అంటే కంప్లీట్ అయిపోయింది, క్యాన్సిలేషన్ వరకు కంప్లీట్ అయింది. బట్ కాన్సిక్వెన్సెస్ వచ్చేసరికి యూ హ్యావ్ నాట్ ఫైల్డ్ 10 కాబట్టి ద లేట్ ఫీజ్ ఈజ్ రన్నింగ్ అండ్ ఇఫ్ ఎనీ ఫైనల్ ట్యాక్స్ ఈస్ టు బి పెయిడ్ దట్ ఇంట్రెస్ట్ ఈస్ ఆల్సో రన్నింగ్. సో దేర్ ఫోర్ కంప్లై దట్ అండ్ క్లోజ్ అంతే. బట్ cancellation for the limited perspective of cancellation done.
Refundable deposit also forming part of turnover.
Yeah.
Refundable deposit also forming part of the turnover for GST. Please explain.
So refundable deposit, even take away the word refundable, deposit is different from advance. So deposit by its very nature is made for certain for a purpose. So deposit another purpose adjusting against the supply card. Security deposit undi, EMD deposit undi, ఆర్ ఇంకొకటి ఏదో మొబిలైజేషన్ కోసం మనం ముందుగా రిఫండబుల్ గా ఒక పెద్ద అమౌంట్ ని యాజ్ అ సెక్యూరిటీ పెర్ఫార్మెన్స్ గ్యారంటీ కోసం ఏదో డిపాజిట్ చేశాము. డిపాజిట్ విల్ నెవర్ ఫార్మ్ పార్ట్ ఆఫ్ టర్న్ ఓవర్. హవెవర్ ఈ డిపాజిట్ ని కొంతకాలం తర్వాత అడ్వాన్స్ లాగా బిహేవ్ చేస్తే దట్ మీన్స్ ఫర్ వాట్ ఎవర్ దట్ హీ హ్యాస్ టు పే, ఇఫ్ హీ హ్యాడ్ పెయిడ్ అవుట్ ఆఫ్ ద డిపాజిట్ అట్ ద టైమ్ హీ అడ్జస్ట్ ది డిపాజిట్ యాజ్ కన్సిడరేషన్, ఇట్ విల్ టేక్ ద క్యారెక్టర్ ఆఫ్ అడ్వాన్స్ అండ్ దెన్ ఇట్ ఈస్ taxed. So the answer is we have to differentiate between deposit and advance. The purpose of advance is to pay part of the consideration, whereas deposit is not forming part of a consideration, is an independent transaction.
Sir, insurance compensation received can be part of the other income and can be considered as a turnover, as a part of the turnover of GST turnover.
It is not part of turnover under GST. That means for 9 it is not turnover. For 9C it is anyway turnover. Books lo edi turnover aithe adi 9C. So the concept, the theme of 9C is different. The theme of 9 is different. The theme of 9 goes by GST Act. The theme of 9C goes by books of accounts factually. So 9C ki turnover e, 9 ki turnover kaadu, rendidiki difference vastundi. We will reconcile.
So kindly clarify the adjustments related to the FY 2017-18 shown in the FY 2018-19. Now the question is how to disclose all those adjustments while filing the GSTR 9 of FY 18-19.
Yeah, ikkada adjustment, amendment, debit note, credit note, ivi chaala thin line of difference tho unna concepts sir. In tomorrow's session we have a case study on that, specific case study. So if you permit, I will take it in tomorrow's session, sir.
Sure, sir.
I'll make sure that this is answered in tomorrow's session. There is a case study on that.
Fine.
Excellent. Sir, ITC excess claim. Now client wants to pay the same. Do we need to show the same in table 9 or directly can we pay through DRC 3?
We have to do both, sir. The moment we have claimed excess, table 9 of what? Table 9 of GSTR 9 kaadu, because table 9 of GSTR 9 is dealing with taxes paid. So adi factual position, enta tax manam pay chesamo anta tax declare cheyatame. So there is no way we can alter that. Table 9 of GSTR 9C ki vachesariki payable lo manam chupinchi, then we have to pay through DRC 3. So paying directly in DRC 3 will not solve our problem of disclosure under 9C. So we have to do both.
Yes.
As on that, the responsibilities are different. Disclosure is the responsibility of the auditor in 9C. So we will do our part, and then it has to be paid. That is another part.
Sir, he is a West Godavari district branch chairman, sir. DRC 3 filed for the financial year 2017-18 and 18-19, but still it is showing pending with the department. What should we do?
Yeah, ఇది ఒక ప్రాక్టికల్ ప్రాబ్లం అండి, టెక్నికల్ ప్రాబ్లం. DRC 3 shall be followed by DRC 4. That means an acknowledgement to be given by the department. బట్ అది ఒక టెక్నికల్ గ్లిచ్ వల్ల వాళ్ళు చాలా కాలంగా క్లియర్ చేయట్లేదు, ఇలాంటివి ఉన్నాయన్నది నోటీసు కూడా ఉంది. What shall we do is to raise a ticket, and that's it.
So, sir, raise a ticket
with the help desk.
and
Legal
Tirupati
practical portal problem, it has to be followed up with the department.
ITC wrongly availed in 2018-19 was reversed in GSTR 3B of 1920, and corresponding tax along with the interest was paid in GSTR 3B of July 2019. Please suggest the procedure if it is wrong.
Yeah. So of 1819, that was already rectified in 1920. We have seen in the last table of the presentation, the due date to rectify is September. We have rightfully rectified it prior to that in the month of July. So it was all done. Finally, where to disclose ante GSTR 9 law, there is part 5. Part 5 law, table 12 and 13 law, reversals and what law, you have to show it under reversals. And that is a way to disclose. The procedure that was already followed is correct. Perfect.
Okay. Go to the next question. Even for a single day of registration, we have to file GSTR 9?
Of course, yes, sir. But up to 2 crores of turnover, anyway, the GSTR 9 was made optional for both financial year 17-18 and 18-19. So you can avail the option. There are no downside risk for non-filing of in your case. So then you can leave it. It will be deemed as filed.
Fine.
But answering the question directly, even a single day registration, we have to file 9.
So, is the transfer of civil structure for a consideration by a lessee after the end of lease period is a taxable supply or neither a good nor a supply?
The transfer of a civil structure, whether that civil structure is under construction and whether we have collected monies prior to completion of that construction, then it becomes a construction service. Otherwise, any civil structure will be covered under
the constructed during the lease period by the lessee.
Yeah, the civil structure is constructed during the lease period by the lessee. So here in this case, we are leasing the land and the lessee is constructing the civil structure. So after that, he is returning the land along with the civil structure. So what happens is here, the built up, the construction is being taken care by lessee. So here are two services which are independent of each other. One, the leasing of land by the landowner, which is a taxable supply, and the lessee, he is constructing the civil structure and then transferring it. Whether for such a service of construction, is he collecting any monies? Yeah. So then it will further lead to complications. Yeah. Yes, sir.
The next one is going to be the last question.
Yeah. So there are other implications to that question, sir. It is a very wide question and it goes into the civil structure property, but we have to be very careful in that.
Say I have two GSTN and one GSTN is 33 crore and other GSTN is 1.5 crore. So GSTR 9 and C is to be filed for both, right?
Yeah,
it is right.
For both. For the purpose of calculation of 2 crore, we will consider all. Once the 2 crore turnover is considered on the whole, 9C shall be filed for each of the parts. Whether they are less than 2 crore or greater than 2 crore, it doesn't matter. You have to file 9C for both. So even in the case of that 1.5 crore turnover, you have to file your 9C.
Sir, are you sharing the this thing? Advanced queries and all these things, sir. That tomorrow that session is there now, sir?
Yes, sir.
Are you sharing the questions to us?
It is like a case study, sir. I'll host it on the site before the session starts. But you mean, shall I deliver it now?
Yeah, it is possible for the benefit of members. Can you give it to today evening or something like that? We can post it in the WhatsApp groups so that they will be prepared for the case study and come prepared for that and for the asking the questions and all these things. Sure, they can lively participate the things.
Sure.
Thank you, sir. Ravikishore, sir, vote of thanks, formal.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir, Siva Prasad Garu, and also for the State GST Commissioner who has made it convenient, in spite of his busy schedule, to address our viewers and inform about the latest happenings. So Prasad Garu, it is not all done in respect of you. You kindly bear with us and also address our viewers tomorrow. And
Sure,
also
sure.
I thank all the viewers for their patient hearing for the extended time also. Thank you and see you tomorrow in the next session.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mananda.
Thank you.
End live.